What if Naruto was Void Dragon Sage, true god who surpassed Veldanava Shion x Shuna Chapter 1, Convergence of Destinies. Naruto wiped sweat from his brow, dropping his shovel with a satisfying thud. 6 months after the war in Konoha was finally starting to look like home again. The mid-afternoon sun beat down on his back as he admired the newly constructed academy building. Looking good, right? Naruto grinned at the construction crew. A worker tossed him a water bottle. We couldn't have done it without your shadow clones, Lord Seventh. Come on, I told you to just call me Naruto, he laughed, though the title still gave him a weird flutter in his chest. Hokage. After everything, he'd finally achieved his dream. So why did he still feel so restless? Naruto chugged the water and tossed the empty bottle in a nearby bin. I'm gonna check the underground supports. Be back in a bit. He jumped down into the massive foundation pit, landing with practiced ease. The construction extended deep below Konoha's surface where they were reinforcing the village's infrastructure. After Pain's attack and the war, they weren't taking any chances. Something caught his eye, a glint of purple light flickering from a narrow crevice in the bedrock wall. Probably nothing, but Shadow Clone Jutsu. A dozen Narutos appeared. Keep working on the supports. I'm checking something out. The original Naruto squeezed through the crevice, following the strange purple glow. The narrow passage suddenly opened into a vast underground cavern that definitely wasn't on any village blueprints. What the hell, he whispered. The cavern walls were covered in ancient carvings, dragons spiraling around strange symbols he'd never seen before. Not the Sage of Six Paths markings. Something older. At the center stood a cracked obsidian altar emanating that strange purple light. Naruto approached cautiously. Years of experience had taught him that mysterious glowing things usually meant trouble. But something about this felt familiar. Like it was calling to him specifically. The moment his fingers brushed the altar, purple energy surged up his arm. Naruto tried to pull back but couldn't move. Shit! Images flooded his mind, vast cosmic dragons swimming through the void before time began, primordial beings that predated even the Otsutsuki clan. Knowledge crashed into him like a tidal wave, the void dragons, entities of pure creation that existed before the universe took form. The energy pulsed, and suddenly he was free. Naruto stumbled back, heart pounding. Something felt different. His chakra was shifting. Expanding. Naruto. Shikamaru's voice echoed from the passage. You down here? We've got a situation topside. Coming. Naruto called back, casting one last look at the altar before squeezing back through the crevice. There you are, Shikamaru said when Naruto emerged, looking unusually tense. What were you doing down there? Found some weird cave with, tell me later. We've got reports of strange energy fluctuations around the village perimeter. And Shikamaru hesitated, the priestess Shion just arrived at the gates demanding to see you. Says it's urgent. Naruto's eyebrows shot up. Shion? From the land of demons? The very same. And she looks like she hasn't slept in days. Shion paced the Hokage's office, her normally perfect appearance disheveled. Dark circles under her eyes contrasted sharply with her pale skin and light blonde hair. 3 minutes, she muttered. 3 minutes and 14 seconds since I last checked the time. Why isn't he here yet? The door burst open, and Naruto rushed in, still dusty from construction. Shion. What's going on? Are you okay? She spun around, violet eyes wide. For a moment, she just stared at him, then whispered, it's worse than I thought. Your chakra, it's already changing. What are you talking about? The dream started 3 weeks ago, she explained, hands trembling slightly. Not normal prophecies. These were, across dimensions. Realities I've never seen before. And you were at the center of all of them. Naruto's mind flashed back to the underground altar. What did you see exactly? Destruction. Creation. You, transformed into something beyond human understanding. Shion stepped closer, lowering her voice. And a woman made of shadows consuming entire worlds. Naruto was about to respond when a sharp pain lanced through his head. He winced, pressing his palm against his temple. Naruto. Shion reached for him just as the building began to shake. Earthquake, he wondered, but the rumbling felt wrong somehow. More like reality itself was vibrating. Shikamaru burst in. Naruto. There's something happening at the village square. They rushed outside. The sky above Konoha had split open, a jagged purple tear hovering over the festival preparations. Villagers pointed and shouted as the rift widened. Everyone stay back. Naruto ordered, summoning dozens of shadow clones to evacuate civilians. The tear in space pulsed, and Naruto felt his chakra respond, resonating with the strange energy. Without thinking, he jumped to the rooftops, racing toward the disturbance. Naruto, wait. Shion called, following him. At the village square, the rift had expanded to nearly 20 feet across. Gusts of unfamiliar air carried scents of an alien forest and something like slime. What is it? Asked a Chunin, backing away. A dimensional rift, Shion answered, catching up to Naruto. A tear between worlds. Naruto felt power surging through him, not the familiar chakra of Kurama, but something new, something tied to the altar he'd touched. Purple energy crackled across his skin. Stand back, he warned Shion. I'm going to try to close it. No. Shion grabbed his arm. That's not what's supposed to happen. You need to. The ground beneath them cracked, interrupting her warning. Before either could react, the stone collapsed, sending them plummeting directly toward the dimensional rift. Naruto grabbed Shion mid-fall, trying to form a Rasengan to blast them clear, but the purple energy interfered with his chakra control. They tumbled directly into the tear in reality. A sensation like being pulled apart atom by atom, then reassembled. Blinding light, absolute darkness, then. They crashed onto soft grass under a blue-green sky. Naruto jumped to his feet, immediately on guard. You okay? Shion nodded, rising shakily. We're in another world. They stood on a hill overlooking a vast city unlike anything in the elemental nations. Buildings of strange design surrounded a massive structure that appeared to be made of crystal. Forests bordered the city, but the trees had a bluish tint. What is this place? Naruto wondered. Jura Tempest Federation, Shion answered. I saw it in my visions. A commotion from behind made them turn. Several guards in unfamiliar uniforms approached, led by a beautiful woman with pink hair and striking red eyes. She wore elegant robes that marked her as nobility. Identify yourselves, she commanded in a voice that carried surprising authority. How did you breach our dimensional barriers? Naruto stepped forward. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, 7th Hokage of Konohagakure. This is Priestess Shion from the land of demons. We fell through a rift that appeared in our village. The woman's eyes widened slightly. Another spontaneous dimensional breach, just as predicted. She studied them intently before continuing, I am Princess Shuna of the Jura Tempest Federation. You'll need to come with me. My brother will want to speak with you. Your brother? Naruto asked. Rimuru Tempest, Shion whispered. The slime demon lord. Shuna's gaze snapped to Shion. You know of Lord Rimuru? How is that possible? Prophetic visions, Shion explained. They've been showing me glimpses of this world, among others. Shuna's expression shifted from suspicion to cautious interest. Then perhaps this isn't coincidence. Follow me, but know that if you attempt anything hostile, the consequences will be severe. As they walked toward the Crystal Palace, Naruto noticed people of various races going about their daily lives, humans alongside what appeared to be dwarves, elves, beast-men, and even monsters. All coexisting peacefully. "Your village is incredible," Naruto said, genuinely impressed. "Everyone living together like this, it's what I've always wanted for the ninja world." Shuna's posture relaxed slightly. Jura Tempest was founded on that very principle. Lord Rimuru believes that cooperation benefits everyone, regardless of species or origin. "Sounds like my kind of leader," Naruto grinned. As they approached the palace, Naruto felt a strange pull from below, an energy signature similar to what he'd felt from the altar. His newly enhanced senses detected a vast power source beneath the city. Shuna led them through ornate halls to a meeting room where a small blue slime with a human face waited alongside various officials. "Lord Rimuru," Shuna bowed. "These are the dimensional travelers. They claim to have fallen through a spontaneous rift." The slime shifted, transforming into the form of a young man with blue hair. "Another rift? That's the third this month." He studied Naruto with unexpected intensity. "But you're different from the others. There's something about your energy signature." Naruto felt it too, a resonance between whatever was changing inside him and something within Rimuru. "You've been in contact with Void Dragon energy," Rimuru stated, surprising everyone in the room. "How did you?" "Because I inherited memories from Veldanava, the creator god of this world," Rimuru explained. And he knew the Void Dragons well. They existed before him, before everything. Shion stepped forward. "My visions showed Naruto transformed by this power, becoming something beyond even Veldanava." A tense silence fell over the room. Several officials exchanged worried glances. Rimuru's expression remained neutral. That would be problematic. Veldanava's power already nearly destroyed this world once. Something beyond that could threaten the entire multiverse. "I don't want to destroy anything," Naruto insisted. "I just want to get back to my village and figure out what's happening." "It may not be that simple," Shuna interjected. "These rifts aren't random. Something is systematically weakening the barriers between dimensions." Before anyone could respond, an alarm blared through the palace. A guard burst into the room. "Lord Rimuru. Void creatures attacking the Eastern District." "Void creatures?" Naruto asked. "Manifestations from between dimensions," Rimuru explained, already moving. "They started appearing with the rifts. Normally just minor nuisances, but lately they've grown stronger." "Let us help," Naruto offered. "It's the least we can do for your hospitality." Rimuru nodded after a brief hesitation. "Stay close to Shuna." They raced through the city toward rising plumes of smoke. Citizens fled in the opposite direction as buildings crumbled under assault from shadowy entities with too many limbs and glowing purple eyes. "Those definitely weren't in my visions," Shion muttered. Naruto didn't wait for instructions. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. Hundreds of Naruto clones appeared, immediately engaging the creatures. But when their attacks connected, the clones' hands sank into the void stuff making up the creatures' bodies. "Physical attacks don't work well," Shuna called, summoning magical fire that seemed far more effective. Naruto dispelled his clones, focusing instead on feeling the strange energy coursing through him. Acting on instinct, he extended his hand and concentrated. Purple energy shot from his palm, connecting with one of the void creatures. Instead of harming it, Naruto felt himself controlling it. "What the hell?" he muttered, experimentally directing the creature to move right, then left. It followed his commands perfectly. Shuna stared in shock. "That's impossible. No one can control void entities." More creatures converged on their position, attracted to Naruto's energy. Shion stepped back as Naruto and Shuna prepared to defend themselves. "Wait," Shion said suddenly. "Naruto, don't fight them. Absorb them." "What? How?" "I don't know how I know, but I've seen it. They're fragments of the same power you touched in that cave." Trusting her instincts, Naruto lowered his defenses and reached out with his consciousness instead of his chakra. The void creatures hesitated, then surged toward him all at once. Naruto! Shuna cried in alarm. But instead of attacking, the creatures dissolved into streams of purple energy that flowed into Naruto's body. Each absorption brought new knowledge, new awareness, as if pieces of a cosmic puzzle were slotting into place. When the last creature disappeared, Naruto stood transformed. Purple energy crackled around him, and his eyes glowed with inner light. That was intense, he said, voice slightly distorted before returning to normal. The glow faded, though a subtle purple aura remained visible to those who knew what to look for. Rimuru approached cautiously. You absorbed them completely. Not even I can do that. Naruto looked at his hands, feeling the new power settling within him. It felt natural, like they were meant to be part of me. Or you're meant to be part of them, Shion suggested quietly. A crowd had gathered at a safe distance, watching with a mixture of fear and awe. Shuna stepped forward, addressing her people. The threat has passed. Return to your homes. As the citizens dispersed, Rimuru signaled for Naruto, Shion, and Shuna to follow him back to the palace. Once in a secure chamber, he turned to them with newfound seriousness. This changes everything. What you just did confirms my suspicions. Rimuru gestured to a large crystal map showing multiple interconnected worlds. These rifts aren't random. They're being drawn to you, Naruto. Or rather, to what you're becoming. And what exactly is that? Naruto asked. The void dragons were primordial entities that existed in the space between reality, Rimuru explained. Veldanava learned from them before creating this world. But legend says one dragon refused to teach him everything, believing some power should remain beyond even gods. The altar I found, Naruto realized. It must have contained that dragon's essence. Which is now merging with you, Shion added. That's what my visions have been showing me. Shuna, who had been studying Naruto intently, suddenly gasped. The prophecy of the bridge between worlds. I always thought it was metaphorical. What prophecy? Shion asked, immediately interested. An ancient text in our archive speaks of a golden warrior who would absorb the void itself, becoming a bridge between all realms, Shuna explained. We assumed it referred to Lord Rimuru's unification of monster and human worlds. Looks like someone beat me to the punch, Rimuru said with a slight smile. But this raises another concern. If the prophecy is true, then the rest of it must be as well. The rest? Naruto questioned. The shadowed goddess who devours worlds, Shuna quoted. A being born from corruption of the natural order who seeks to collapse all realities into one perfect dimension. A chill ran through the room. Shion's hands trembled slightly. In my visions, I saw a woman made of shadows, she whispered. Consuming entire worlds. We need to find out what's happening in your world, Rimuru decided. These rifts go both ways. If we can stabilize one, we might be able to send you back. I can help with that, Shuna offered. I've been studying dimensional magic since the first rifts appeared. I'm coming too, Rimuru declared. If this threat is as serious as I suspect, we'll need to form an alliance between our worlds. As they discussed logistics, Naruto stepped away, looking out a window at the unfamiliar world. The power inside him pulsed, and for a brief moment, his perception expanded. He could feel connections to countless other realities, thin threads in the cosmic weave. And something moving between them. Something hungry. You feel it too, don't you? Shion asked quietly, joining him. Yeah. Something's out there, using these rifts. Naruto turned to her. In your visions, do I stop it? Shion hesitated. In some futures. In others. She looked away. I become something worse, he finished for her. The power you're gaining, it's beyond anything meant for humans. Even Jinchuriki. Naruto grinned, some of his old confidence returning. Good thing I've had practice with powers I'm not supposed to have, right? Shion didn't return his smile. This is different, Naruto. This power doesn't just change what you can do. It changes what you are. Before he could respond, the entire palace shuddered. Outside, the sky darkened as another, larger rift tore open directly above the city. That's not supposed to happen, Rimuru said, rushing back to them. The dimensional stabilizers should prevent rifts this close to the palace. Something's forcing it open, Shuna realized, her hands glowing with magic as she attempted to analyze the disturbance. Through the rift, they could see Konoha, but something was wrong. Shadows flowed like liquid across buildings and streets. We need to go back now, Naruto insisted. It's too unstable, Shuna argued. We need time to, Naruto's eyes flashed purple. We don't have time. Power surged around him, responding to his will. With a gesture, he somehow gripped the edges of the rift, stabilizing it through sheer force. How are you doing that? Rimuru asked, genuinely impressed. No idea, Naruto admitted through gritted teeth. But I can hold it open long enough for us to get through. I'm going with you, Shuna declared. Rimuru nodded. Bring them back safely, Shuna. I'll prepare our forces in case this situation escalates. Naruto, Shion, and Shuna leapt through the stabilized rift, emerging in chaos. Konoha was under siege, not from conventional forces, but from living shadows that consumed everything they touched. Kakashi appeared beside them, looking haggard. Naruto. Where the hell have you been? These things started appearing right after you vanished. Another dimension, Naruto explained quickly. What are we dealing with? We're calling them void wraiths, Kakashi said, eyeing Shuna curiously. They pass through solid objects and absorb chakra. Even the Sharingan can't copy or predict them. Naruto felt the connection immediately. These creatures were similar to what he'd absorbed in Tempest, but corrupted somehow. Twisted. I can handle them, he said with certainty. We can handle them, Shuna corrected, hands already glowing with magic unfamiliar to the ninja world. My void magic should be effective. They split up, Kakashi evacuating civilians with Shion's help while Naruto and Shuna confronted the shadow creatures. Working together, they established an effective rhythm. Shuna would corral the wraiths with magical barriers, and Naruto would absorb them. With each absorption, Naruto's power grew, his understanding of the void expanding. He could feel the source now, a pulsing darkness at the center of the village. There's someone controlling them, he called to Shuna. At the Hokage monument. They fought their way through the village, eventually reaching the stone faces carved into the mountainside. Atop the monument stood a figure shrouded in writhing shadows. As they approached, the shadows parted slightly, revealing a woman with pale features disturbingly similar to Kaguya Otsutsuki. Ah, the vessel arrives, she spoke, voice echoing unnaturally. Ahead of schedule, but no matter. Who are you? Naruto demanded. I have no name yet. I am becoming. The shadow woman tilted her head. As are you, Naruto Uzumaki. We are not so different. I'm nothing like you, Naruto shot back. No. We both consume the void to become something greater. The difference is merely intent. Her gaze shifted to Shuna. How curious. A princess from beyond, wielding primitive void arts. Shuna stepped forward defiantly. I am Princess Shuna of Tempest, and I recognize corruption when I see it. You're manipulating forces you don't understand. The shadow woman laughed, the sound rippling through reality itself. I understand perfectly. All dimensions must be purified and united. The cosmic order demands harmony. By destroying everything? Naruto challenged. By perfecting everything, she corrected. This fragmented existence is inherently flawed. I will create one perfect dimension where all worthy life can thrive. And who decides what's worthy? Shuna demanded. Instead of answering, the woman raised her hand. Space warped around them as a massive gravitational force tried to pull them toward her. Universal consumption, she intoned. Naruto countered instinctively, purple energy forming a shield around himself and Shuna. Their powers clashed, creating a shockwave that cracked the very monument beneath them. Impressive, the Shadow Woman acknowledged. The vessel progresses rapidly. She smiled, revealing teeth too sharp to be human. But you're not ready yet. With a gesture, she tore open another rift and stepped backward into it. Grow stronger, Naruto Uzumaki. Our true battle approaches. Wait. Naruto lunged forward, but the rift closed before he could reach it. Shuna placed a hand on his shoulder. She's gone. For now. But who was she? She looked like Kaguya, but, wrong. Kaguya void, came Shion's voice as she joined them, Kakashi at her side. That's what my visions called her. A corrupt entity born from Kaguya's lingering consciousness and void energy. Kakashi looked between them, clearly struggling to process everything. Would someone please explain what's going on? Dimensional rifts? Void energy? And who is this? He gestured to Shuna. As the others filled Kakashi in, Naruto's attention drifted to the village below. The shadow creatures had vanished with Kaguya Void's departure, but the damage remained, buildings partially consumed, areas where reality seemed thinner. And he could still feel them, countless threads connecting to other dimensions, vibrating with potential. Something fundamental had changed in the fabric of reality. Or maybe something had changed in him, allowing him to perceive what was always there. We need to form an alliance, Shuna was explaining to Kakashi. Your world and mine face the same threat. This Kaguya Void seeks to collapse all dimensions into one. And Naruto is somehow central to stopping her. Kakashi clarified. Shion nodded. According to my visions, he must fully embrace the power of the Void Dragons to counter her. Becoming something beyond even Veldanava, Shuna added quietly. All eyes turned to Naruto. The pressure of their expectations weighed on him, alongside the strange new power coursing through his veins. I never asked for this, he said finally. But I've never backed down from protecting the people I care about. If that means becoming something new. He looked at his hands, small wisps of purple energy dancing between his fingers. Then that's what I'll do. Kakashi nodded, the familiar crinkle of his eye showing he was smiling beneath his mask. Always taking on the impossible. Some things never change. We should establish a formal alliance between our worlds, Shuna suggested. I can act as ambassador from Tempest. And I'll help Naruto understand these visions and the path forward, Shion added. As they descended from the monument, villagers emerged from shelters, looking to Naruto with a mixture of relief, gratitude, and uncertainty. News of his strange new powers had already spread. Lord Seventh. A young genin ran up to him. Is it true? Can you really control these monsters? Naruto knelt to the child's level. They're not monsters, exactly. Just, lost pieces of something bigger. And yes, I can help them find where they belong. The child beamed. That's so cool. You're even more amazing now. The simple acceptance lightened Naruto's heart. Maybe this change didn't have to be feared. Maybe, like everything else in his life, it was about how he chose to use the power given to him. That night, representatives from both worlds gathered in the Hokage's office. Maps were spread across tables, reports exchanged, theories discussed. The foundation of an alliance was taking shape. The void creatures appear to be drawn to areas with high chakra concentration, Shikamaru noted, pointing to marked locations. Similar to how they're attracted to magic sources in our world, Shuna confirmed. They feed on energy. Which explains why they're drawn to Naruto, Shion added. He's essentially becoming a nexus of void energy. Naruto, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke up. I need to learn to control this power properly. If Kaguya Void returns, we'll face her together, Shuna assured him, her hand briefly touching his in a gesture that didn't go unnoticed by Shion. The priestess's eyes narrowed slightly, but she nodded in agreement. My visions show multiple paths forward. In the most favorable outcomes, you master this power through understanding, not force. The ruins where you found the altar might contain more information, Shikamaru suggested. And our archives in Tempest have extensive records on void phenomena, Shuna added. Then we have our starting points, Naruto decided, standing with renewed determination. Shikamaru, you'll coordinate village defenses against any new rifts or creatures. Shion, I need you to keep track of those visions, they're our best early warning system. Shuna. He turned to the princess, would you be willing to teach me about void magic? It might help me understand what's happening to me. Shuna bowed slightly, a soft smile on her face. It would be my honor, Lord Seventh. Just Naruto is fine, he insisted, rubbing the back of his neck with a grin. As the meeting concluded and people filtered out, Shion lingered, watching the easy rapport developing between Naruto and Shuna with a complicated expression. Your visions, Naruto asked when they were alone. Do they show personal things too? Shion understood his unasked question. They show many possibilities, Naruto. Including some where your heart is divided. Her expression softened. But prophecy isn't destiny. It's potential. I'm not looking for relationship advice from the future, Naruto laughed. I just want to know we win this thing. In some futures, we do. Shion stepped closer. In the brightest one, you remember that your humanity is your greatest strength, not a limitation to overcome. With that cryptic message, she left him alone with his thoughts. Outside the Hokage building, Shuna gazed up at the stars, finding familiar constellations despite being in another dimension. Beautiful, aren't they? Naruto asked, joining her on the balcony. Yes. It's comforting to know that some things remain constant across worlds. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Thank you, Naruto said finally. For helping us. For believing in me. Shuna turned to him, red eyes reflecting starlight. In Tempest, we've learned that differences can be strengths when united by common purpose. Your world and mine need each other now. And what about after? When this is over? Naruto asked. If we succeed, Shuna corrected gently, the bridges between our worlds will remain. What we build now will last beyond this crisis. As if to emphasize her point, a small rift opened in the sky above them, not a jagged tear like before, but a perfect circle through which Tempest's crystalline palace could be seen. The dimensional stabilizers are working, Shuna noted with satisfaction. Small, controlled connections rather than chaotic rifts. A bridge between worlds, Naruto murmured, recalling the prophecy. As they watched, more tiny portals opened across the sky, connecting to different dimensions. Through each, strange new worlds became visible for a brief moment before the portals closed again. It's starting, Shuna whispered. The convergence of destinies. In the distance, a shadow moved against the night, watching them. Kaguya Void smiled to herself before melting into darkness. Yes, she whispered to no one. Everything proceeds as it should. Grow stronger, bridge between worlds. The true void awaits us all. Chapter 2, Trials of Ascension. A week after the first major rift incident, and Konoha looked like a sci-fi nightmare. Dimensional stabilizers, tech borrowed from Tempest, dotted the village perimeter. Shimmering barriers flickered with purple energy, containing smaller rifts that kept popping up like cosmic acne. In the middle of Training Ground 7, Naruto stood with his eyes closed, purple energy crackling around his body. Sweat poured down his face as he struggled to maintain control. Focus on the void center, not its edges, Shuna instructed, circling him. Her red eyes tracked the energy fluctuations with practiced precision. Void power responds to intent more than force. Naruto gritted his teeth. It's like trying to hold water without a cup. Because you're still thinking like a ninja, she replied. Chakra is structured. Void energy is possibility. With a frustrated grunt, Naruto pushed harder. The purple aura expanded dramatically, then exploded outward, sending Shuna flying backward. Shit! Naruto sprinted to where she'd landed. I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Shuna brushed dirt from her elegant robes, looking more annoyed than hurt. The fourth time today. At this rate, I'll spend more time in the air than on the ground. Maybe we should take a break, he suggested. And let this power build up until it explodes again. Not a chance. She straightened, her expression softening slightly. You're improving. The first day, that explosion would have leveled half the forest. Naruto looked around at the scorched training ground. Craters from previous, practice sessions, pockmarked the earth. Several trees had been reduced to charred stumps. Kakashi-sensei's gonna kill me when he sees what I did to his favorite training spot. If you don't master this power, there are worse things to worry about than your former teacher's wrath, came Shion's voice as she approached from the village path. She carried a stack of scrolls and wore a concerned expression. The rifts are increasing. 3 more opened in the last hour alone. Did anything come through? Naruto asked immediately. Nothing harmful, Shion assured him. Mostly atmospheric bleed, air, some strange pollen, harmless energy fluctuations. Still, the frequency is concerning, Shuna noted. The stabilizers should be containing them better than this. Naruto ran a hand through his sweat-soaked hair. It's my fault. The more this power grows, the more rifts appear. It's like they're drawn to me. Not your fault, Shion corrected. Kagaya Void is deliberately targeting areas where you've been. She's tracking your energy signature. Which means we need to accelerate your training, Shuna added. These conventional methods aren't working fast enough. Naruto sat heavily on a boulder, exhaustion evident in every line of his body. For once, his boundless stamina seemed depleted. I've tried everything. Shadow clones to multiply training time, Sage mode to enhance perception, even asking Kurama for help. And what did the Ninetales say? Shion asked. Naruto's expression turned troubled. He's quiet lately. Like this void energy is pushing him into the background somehow. It's got me worried. The three fell silent, each contemplating the implications. Finally, Shion stepped forward, unrolling one of the scrolls she'd brought. I found something in the ancient texts from the land of demons, she explained. References to the void succession, a ritual where previous vessels of great power would manifest to guide a new host. Naruto perked up. Like, the past void dragon people would train me? Essentially, Shion nodded. But it requires returning to where you first contacted the void energy. The ruins beneath Konoha, Naruto realized. We've been looking at this all wrong, Shuna said, excitement building in her voice. You can't master this power through external training. It has to come from within, from connecting to its source. Naruto stood, newfound determination on his face. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go void dragon ghost hunting. The underground cavern seemed different now, larger, more alive somehow. The carvings of dragons along the walls pulsed with faint purple light, responding to Naruto's presence. It recognizes you, Shion whispered, her voice echoing in the vast space. Naruto approached the central altar that had started everything. Last time, he'd touched it by accident. Now, he reached out deliberately, placing both palms on the cool obsidian surface. Nothing happened. Maybe there's a specific ritual, Shuna suggested, examining the carvings. These symbols, they're similar to ancient void script from my world, but evolved differently. Shion joined her, tracing the patterns with her fingers. These match descriptions from my temple's oldest texts. They speak of awakening the sleeping dragons through sacrifice. Sacrifice? Naruto repeated warily. I'm not killing anything for power. Not that kind of sacrifice, Shion clarified. More like offering something of yourself. The texts say, that which defines you must be surrendered to gain that which transcends you. Naruto frowned. That which defines me. Your chakra, Shuna realized. You need to offer your chakra to the void. The suggestion sent a chill through Naruto. His chakra had always been his greatest asset, massive reserves enhanced by Kurama, the source of his jutsu, his strength. That's a hell of a risk, he said quietly. What if it takes everything? Then we'll find another way, Shion stated firmly. This isn't worth losing yourself. Naruto stared at the altar, conflict evident on his face. Finally, he closed his eyes. No. This is what I signed up for when I became Hokage, doing whatever it takes to protect everyone. If surrendering my chakra is what it costs, then so be it. Before either woman could object, Naruto placed his hands on the altar again and began channeling chakra into it. The stone greedily absorbed the golden energy. As his chakra flowed outward, Naruto felt a strange hollowness building within, not painful, but disorienting, like losing gravity. The altar's purple glow intensified, spreading across the floor in intricate patterns. The entire cavern rumbled. Naruto, that's enough. Shuna called, alarmed by how pale he was becoming. He couldn't stop now if he wanted to. The altar had established a connection, drawing more chakra than he'd intended to give. Even Kurama's reserves were being drained. Just when it seemed he might collapse, the flow abruptly reversed. Not his golden chakra returning, but something else, ancient, purple, viscous power that filled the emptiness inside him. Naruto gasped as knowledge flooded his consciousness. The void was alive, aware, ancient beyond comprehension. And it had been waiting for him. The cavern dissolved around them. Suddenly, they stood in a starless expanse where reality seemed optional rather than mandatory. 7 colossal dragons materialized, their bodies composed of what looked like living darkness scattered with points of light, as if they'd swallowed galaxies. The vessel awakens, rumbled the largest dragon, its voice somehow transmitting directly into their minds. After eons, a worthy successor approaches. I'm not here to succeed anyone, Naruto replied, surprised at how steady his voice remained despite his awe. I just need to understand this power to stop Kaguya Void. The dragon's laughter shook the non-space around them. So limited in your understanding, yet so bold in your demands. Typical of your kind. My kind? Naruto asked. Humans, clarified another dragon, smaller but somehow more intense. Always seeking power for immediate purposes, never grasping the cosmic scale. A third dragon, with markings resembling constellations, moved closer. Yet this one is different. He carries the 9 tails, has mastered sage energies, and now stands before us unafraid. And he doesn't come alone, noted a fourth, eyeing Shion and Shuna with interest. A prophet and a void practitioner from separate dimensions. Curious allies. Shuna stepped forward, performing a formal bow. Great void dragons, we seek your guidance. The dimensional barriers are failing. A corrupted entity threatens all worlds. Kaguya Void, Shion added. Born from an Otsutsuki's lingering consciousness and void corruption. The dragons conferred among themselves, their massive forms shifting and intertwining. Finally, the first spoke again. We are aware of this aberration. She is not the first to misuse void energies, but she may be the most dangerous. She seeks to collapse all dimensions into one perfect reality, a fundamental violation of cosmic law. Then you'll help us stop her? Naruto asked hopefully. We cannot directly intervene, the dragon replied. Our time of action has passed. We exist now only as guardians of knowledge, as guides for the next evolution. Which is me, apparently, Naruto muttered. If you prove worthy, corrected the dragon. The void essence merging with you is but a fraction of true void dragon potential. To fully claim this power, you must pass our trials. Naruto squared his shoulders. Whatever it takes. The dragon's enormous head lowered until it was level with Naruto. Its eyes contained swirling galaxies. The trials begin now. Back in Konoha, Sakura burst into the Hokage's office where Kakashi and Shikamaru were analyzing reports of new rifts. They're gone, she exclaimed. All three of them, Naruto, Shion, and Princess Shuna. The ANBU guard said they went to investigate some underground ruins, but that was hours ago. Shikamaru frowned. And no one thought to check on the Hokage and two foreign dignitaries. We did, Sakura replied. There's some kind of barrier around the entire cavern system. Nothing gets in or out, not people, not chakra, not even sound. Kakashi sighed, setting down his reports. Just when I thought this situation couldn't get more troublesome. Any communication from Tempest? Lord Rimuru sent word that their sensors detected a massive void energy surge beneath Konoha, Sakura reported. He's asking if we need reinforcements. Not yet, Kakashi decided. But put all shinobi on alert. If this is Kaguya Void making another move. A sudden commotion outside drew their attention. They rushed to the window to see a massive rift tearing open above the Hokage monument, far larger than any previous breach. That's not good, Shikamaru stated unnecessarily. Kakashi was already moving. Sakura, coordinate medical teams. Shikamaru, activate the village evacuation protocol. I'll handle the front line. As they rushed to respond, none noticed the small shadow that detached itself from the wall, sliding away with purpose. The first trial took place in what appeared to be a recreated Konoha, except everything was wrong. Buildings floated upside down, streets twisted like ribbons, and villagers moved backward through time. Reality manipulation, the constellation-marked dragon explained, now human-sized and walking beside Naruto. Void energy allows restructuring of physical laws. Your first task, stabilize this pocket dimension. Naruto stared helplessly at the chaos. How am I supposed to do that? The same way you created shadow clones or formed a Rasengan, with intent and will. But instead of molding chakra, you must shape reality itself. Easier said than done. Naruto closed his eyes, trying to sense the underlying structure of this bizarre place. To his surprise, he could feel it, the weave of reality, threads of possibility intersecting in patterns. And those patterns were wrong. Acting on instinct, he reached out with his consciousness, grasping the distorted threads. They resisted, slippery and wild. Each time he corrected one area, another would warp further. Focus, urged Shuna from somewhere behind him. Remember what I taught you about void intent. Right. Intent over force. Naruto stopped trying to physically grab the threads and instead visualized the correct pattern, a stable Konoha with proper physics. He projected this image outward, not forcing the reality to comply but inviting it to align with his vision. Slowly, buildings rotated right side up. Streets unwound. Time resumed its forward flow. When Naruto opened his eyes, a perfect replica of Konoha surrounded them. Impressive for a first attempt, the dragon acknowledged. But mere stability is the simplest application. True mastery means creation. The scenery shifted. Now they floated in empty void. Create a world, commanded the dragon. Naruto blanched. A whole world? Just like that? Start small if you must. Naruto concentrated, trying to create even a simple rock. Nothing happened. I don't understand, he said, frustration building. I just fixed an entire village. Why can't I make one lousy rock? Because you're thinking like a human, Shion observed quietly. You're trying to make something from nothing. But that's not how void power works, is it? She directed this last question to the dragon. Perceptive, the dragon replied. The void is not emptiness, it is pure potential. All possibilities exist within it simultaneously until observation collapses them into actuality. Like Schrödinger's cat, Shuna murmured, earning curious looks from the others. A concept from advanced scientific theory in some dimensions. So I'm not creating, Naruto realized. I'm selecting. Choosing which possibility becomes real. Precisely, the dragon confirmed. With this new understanding, Naruto tried again. Instead of forcing creation, he reached into the void's potential, feeling the infinite possibilities it contained. There, the potential for land, for water, for life. He drew these possibilities forward, giving them permission to exist. Reality rippled around them. A small island formed beneath their feet, complete with soft grass, a few trees, and a bubbling spring. Not created from nothing, but selected from everything. I did it! Naruto exclaimed, childlike wonder on his face as he knelt to touch the grass, real, living grass that had never existed before this moment. A modest beginning, the dragon acknowledged, but acceptable. Now for the second trial. The island vanished. In its place appeared a battlefield Naruto recognized instantly, the final valley where he had fought Sasuke for the last time. Except this time, hundreds of enemies surrounded him, resurrected versions of every major opponent he'd ever faced. Combat application, the dragon explained. Defend yourself without conventional chakra. The enemies attacked simultaneously. Purely by reflex, Naruto tried forming shadow clones, and failed. His normal chakra remained inaccessible, locked away by the trial's conditions. Use the void. Shuna called as pain launched a massive gravitational pull toward Naruto. Right. Void energy. Naruto reached for the purple power within him, but it was wild, unresponsive to his familiar jutsu structures. He barely managed to dodge Pain's attack, only to face Madara's massive fire technique. Stop fighting like a ninja. Shion shouted. You're not limited to jutsu anymore. As flames engulfed him, Naruto finally understood. He wasn't limited to manipulating his own energy, he could manipulate reality itself. With a thought, he changed the fire's properties, transforming the burning chakra into harmless light. The enemies pressed their attack. Naruto stopped dodging and instead stood his ground. When Kaguya launched her bone projectiles, he simply decided they couldn't touch him. Reality complied, the deadly weapons passing through him as if he were a ghost. With growing confidence, Naruto began counterattacking. Not with jutsu, but with direct reality manipulation. He selected the possibility where Madara's perfect Susanoo crumbled. He chose the outcome where Pain's paths malfunctioned. He decided that Obito's Kamui couldn't access its pocket dimension. One by one, the enemies fell, not to superior force but to fundamental alterations in how reality worked around them. When the battlefield cleared, the dragon nodded in approval. You begin to understand. The final trial awaits. The scene shifted again. This time, they stood in a familiar place, the Hokage's office in Konoha. Except something was different. Naruto himself sat behind the desk, but an older version, perhaps in his 30s. The office bustled with activity as ninja came and went, bringing reports, seeking guidance. I don't understand, Naruto said. What's the trial here? Observe, the dragon instructed. As they watched, unnoticed by the office's occupants, the scene played out. Older Naruto handled village matters with confidence and wisdom. He made decisions, offered counsel, assigned missions. Everything seemed perfect, until Shikamaru entered with troubling news. Another village gone, Phantom Shikamaru reported grimly. That's 3 this month. The void corruption is spreading faster than we can contain it. Older Naruto's face hardened. Casualties? Total. Nothing left but craters. The sensors can't even detect residual chakra signatures. The office emptied as older Naruto requested privacy. Once alone, his composure cracked. Purple energy crackled around him as he struggled with obvious inner conflict. I could save them all, he whispered to himself. One adjustment to reality. Just one. Why should I let people die when I have the power to prevent it? The real Naruto watched in growing horror as his older self's eyes gleamed with dangerous purpose. The purple energy intensified. I won't watch another village fall, older Naruto decided. It's time to rewrite the rules. Power exploded from him, engulfing the entire office. When it cleared, reality itself had changed. The reports on his desk showed all villages safe, all threats neutralized. But there was something wrong with the world outside the window, the colors too perfect, the movements of people too orderly. I've seen enough, Naruto said quietly. This is the trial, isn't it? Temptation. The greatest danger of void power, the dragon confirmed. The ability to remake reality as you desire it to be, rather than as it is. That's not me, Naruto insisted, pointing at his older self who sat in eerie contentment. I would never force my will on reality like that. Wouldn't you? The dragon challenged. To save lives. To end suffering. To create perfect peace. These were always your goals. Naruto fell silent, the accusation striking uncomfortably close to home. The road to corruption is paved with noble intentions, Shuna said softly. In my world, we've seen benevolent rulers become tyrants through gradual compromises. The future is not fixed, Shion added. This is one possibility, not certainty. Naruto approached his older self, studying the man he might become. The perfect village visible through the window reflected in the Hokage's two bright eyes. That's not peace, Naruto realized. It's a cage. Pretty, comfortable, but still a cage. He turned back to the dragon. Real peace comes from understanding and connection, not control. That's what Jiraiya-sensei taught me. That's what I've always fought for. He faced his potential future self directly. I reject this path. Whatever power I gain, I won't use it to force my vision on others. That's not protecting people, it's controlling them. The office shattered like glass around them, returning them to the starless void where the 7 great dragons waited. You have completed the trials, announced the first dragon. Not perfectly, but adequately. Adequately? Naruto protested. I just rejected godlike power to preserve free will. What more do you want? Perfection would be impossible for a being so young, another dragon noted, almost sympathetically. You are barely a cosmic infant. The question remains, said a third, whether you are prepared for what comes next. The power you seek to combat Kaguya Void would transform you beyond humanity. Naruto glanced at Shion and Shuna, drawing strength from their presence. I don't need to stop being human to save humanity. Maybe that's where Kaguya went wrong, she forgot what she was fighting for. The dragons conferred among themselves, their massive forms swirling together like a living nebula. Finally, they separated, and the first dragon addressed Naruto again. We will grant you access to greater void powers, not all at once, but as you prove capable of wielding them. Return to your world. The aberration moves against your people even now. The void around them began to dissolve. As reality reasserted itself, the lead dragon imparted a final warning. Remember, Uzumaki Naruto, to surpass gods, one must understand why gods fail. They materialized directly in Konoha's center to find the village in chaos. A massive rift dominated the sky, spewing void creatures by the hundreds. Ninja fought desperately to protect civilians, but they were clearly losing ground. How long were we gone? Naruto asked a nearby Chunin. Lord 7th. It's been 3 days, the ninja replied, shock and relief warring on his face. We thought you were dead. 3 days. The trials had seemed to last only hours. Time flows differently in the void, Shuna explained, already summoning her magic to shield civilians from a diving creature. Naruto reached for his new powers, feeling them respond more readily than before. With a gesture, he established a reality barrier around the village center, creating a safe zone where void creatures couldn't manifest. Get everyone inside this perimeter, he ordered. Shion, coordinate with the medical teams. Shuna, can you help stabilize the smaller rifts while I handle the main one? Both women nodded, immediately moving to their tasks. Naruto launched himself skyward, using void energy to propel himself toward the massive rift. As he approached, he sensed a familiar presence on the other side. Kaguya Void, he muttered. Of course. The shadowy figure of Kaguya Void emerged partway through the rift, still more wraith than physical being. Her laughter echoed across Konoha. The vessel returns, brimming with new power. Excellent. Her smile was predatory. But still so incomplete. I'm complete enough to kick your shadowy ass back to whatever dimension you crawled from, Naruto shot back. Such confidence, she mocked. Yet you haven't even realized what I've been doing while you played with dragons in the void. With a wave of her hand, smaller rifts opened throughout the village, each showing glimpses of different worlds, some Naruto recognized from his expanded awareness, others completely alien. What the hell are you doing? He demanded. Creating connection points, she explained, as if to a slow child. Each rift weakens the dimensional barriers a little more. Soon, they'll collapse entirely, and the great merging can begin. Naruto attacked, channeling void energy into a concentrated blast. Kaguya Void merely absorbed it, growing more substantial in the process. Thank you for the contribution, she smirked. Your power feeds mine. Did the dragons neglect to mention that detail? We are opposing facets of the same force. Below, Naruto spotted Shuna working frantically to close the smaller rifts, while Shion directed evacuations. He needed to end this quickly. Drawing on his training, Naruto reached for the fabric of reality around the main rift. Instead of attacking Kaguya directly, he focused on stabilizing the dimensional tear, trying to close it from the edges inward. Kaguya hissed in anger. Clever boy. But futile. She pushed back, her corruption spreading along the rift's edges, preventing closure. They struggled for control, their powers deadlocked. You cannot win this contest, she taunted. I have been absorbing void energy for months while you've had days of training. Maybe, Naruto conceded. But I've got something you don't. And what might that be? Friends. On cue, a massive wave of chakra struck Kaguya from behind. Sasuke emerged from a spatial portal, his Rinnegan glowing with power. You're late, Naruto called to his friend. You're welcome, Sasuke replied dryly. The rifts are appearing worldwide, by the way. I've been closing them for 2 days straight. With Kaguya momentarily distracted by Sasuke's attack, Naruto redoubled his efforts to close the rift. The edges began to seal, forcing Kaguya to retreat back to her side or risk being cut in half. This isn't over, she snarled as the rift narrowed. Each confrontation makes you more like me. Soon you won't remember why you're fighting. The rift sealed with a thunderous boom, sending a shockwave across the village. Smaller rifts winked out of existence as Shuna's magic finally took hold. Naruto dropped back to earth, landing beside Sasuke. Thanks for the assist. Sasuke studied him with narrowed eyes. Your chakra, it's completely different. Yeah, about that, you feel like her, Sasuke interrupted, voice hardening. Like Kaguya. Naruto flinched. It's not what you think. I'm still me. Are you? Sasuke's hand drifted toward his sword. The Naruto I know doesn't manipulate reality itself. A lot's happened in 3 days, Naruto tried to explain, but Sasuke's expression remained skeptical. I've seen this before, Sasuke continued. Power that changes people. Corrupts them. His Rinnegan activated fully. I won't let that happen to you. Sasuke, wait, too late. Sasuke attacked, his blade enhanced with lightning chakra. Naruto dodged, unwilling to harm his friend. Just listen to me. Naruto shouted, evading another strike. I'm training to control this power, not be controlled by it. I've heard that before, Sasuke replied coldly. From Madara, from Obito, from Kagaya herself. Their fight escalated, drawing attention from the recovering villagers. Sasuke unleashed his full arsenal, Amaterasu, Susanoo, spatial manipulation, while Naruto primarily defended, using just enough void power to protect himself. Fight back properly. Sasuke demanded. Show me who you really are now. Fine, Naruto growled. You want to see? Here. He allowed his void aura to manifest fully, purple energy crackling around him, reality distorting slightly in his presence. With a gesture, he neutralized Sasuke's Amaterasu. With another, he disrupted the Susanoo. Sasuke responded by trapping him in a genjutsu. To his shock, Naruto simply decided the genjutsu wasn't real, and his mind instantly cleared. This power, Sasuke hissed. It's beyond even Kagaya's. And I'm using it to protect everyone, Naruto insisted. I passed the dragon's trials, Sasuke. I faced the temptation to remake reality and rejected it. Trials can be failed later as easily as passed now, Sasuke countered, preparing another attack. Before they could continue, Shuna stepped between them, magic forming a barrier. Enough, she commanded. This conflict solves nothing while innocents suffer. Sasuke turned his cold gaze on her. You're from another dimension. Part of this madness. I am Princess Shuna of Tempest, she replied evenly. And I have dedicated my life to maintaining dimensional stability, not destroying it. Sasuke, came Shion's voice as she joined them. I have seen thousands of possible futures. In the darkest ones, it's your distrust that pushes Naruto toward the path you fear. Sasuke hesitated, looking between the three of them. Finally, his weapons lowered slightly. Prove it, he challenged Naruto. Prove you're still yourself. Naruto stepped forward, dismissing his void aura until he appeared normal again. Remember our last fight? At the final valley? You asked why I kept chasing after you all those years. A flicker of recognition crossed Sasuke's face. I told you it was because you were my friend, Naruto continued. Because when I'm with you, I picture the kind of future I'd like to have. That hasn't changed, Sasuke. No power in any dimension could change that. The tension in Sasuke's posture eased fractionally. Fine. I'll reserve judgment. But I'm watching you, Naruto. The moment you start trying to improve reality, you'll knock some sense into me, Naruto finished with a grin. I'm counting on it. Their tense reconciliation was interrupted by Shikamaru's arrival. Glad you two worked that out, he drawled. But we have bigger problems. Reports are coming in from around the world, major villages under attack by void phenomena. The land of lightning got hit hardest. Total communication blackout. Naruto's expression turned serious. We need to help them. It's worse than that, Shikamaru continued. Similar reports from Tempest. Lord Rimuru sent an emergency communication. Dimensional attacks are happening simultaneously across multiple worlds. It's starting, Shuna whispered. The Convergence Kagaya Void planned. We need to split up, Naruto decided. Sasuke, take a team to the land of lightning. Shuna, can you return to Tempest and coordinate their defense? Of course, she agreed. But what about you? Naruto looked skyward, where faint traces of rifts still shimmered. Shion and I will investigate the largest remaining rift activity. If Kagaya's pattern holds, she'll be there. They quickly organized their teams and resources. As they prepared to depart, Shuna approached Naruto privately. "Be careful," she said softly. "Each time you use void power against her, the connection between you strengthens." "I know," Naruto admitted. "I can feel it, like she's pulling on the same source I am." "There's something else." Shuna hesitated, then continued. "In Tempest's archives, I found references to beings who surpassed Veldanava. They ceased to be individuals. They became cosmic principles." Naruto's expression grew troubled. "You're saying I might lose myself even if I don't get corrupted?" "I'm saying there's a cost to transcendence," she clarified. "One you should understand before committing to this path." Impulsively, Naruto took her hand. "I'm not planning on transcending anywhere. Once we stop Kagaya Void, I intend to stay right here, annoying Sasuke, eating ramen, and figuring out what this new connection between our worlds means for all of us." Shuna's cheeks colored slightly as she squeezed his hand. "I would like that very much." Nearby, Shion watched their interaction with a complicated expression before turning away. The land of lightning lay in ruins. Where the hidden cloud village once stood, a massive crater now dominated the landscape, its edges rippling with void energy. Sasuke's team moved cautiously through the devastation, searching for survivors. "There's no one left," Sakura whispered, horror evident in her voice. "An entire village, just gone." "Not gone," Sasuke corrected grimly. "Absorbed. The void creatures didn't destroy the village, they consumed it. Pulled it into whatever dimension Kagaya Void controls." A faint groan caught their attention. Beneath rubble at the crater's edge, they found the wreckage, barely alive. "Darui!" Sakura rushed to heal him. Too late, the wreckage coughed. "Village, gone. Pulled through, darkness." "What happened exactly?" Sasuke pressed, kneeling beside the dying leader. "Woman made of shadows," Darui managed. Said. "Naruto could save us, if he embraced his true nature." Called it, a message. Sasuke's expression darkened. "A provocation. She's trying to force Naruto's hand." Darui gripped Sasuke's sleeve with surprising strength. "My people, still alive. I could feel them, on the other side. Tell Naruto." His final words came as barely a whisper. Sasuke leaned closer to hear them, then stood abruptly, face pale. "What did he say?" Sakura asked. "Only a god can save them now," Sasuke quoted, looking troubled. "She's not just provoking Naruto. She's trying to transform him." In Tempest, Shuna reported to Rimuru on the developing crisis. "Naruto's power grows exponentially," she explained. "But so does the threat. Kagaya Void has begun absorbing entire settlements." Rimuru, in his human form, paced the crystal chamber. "Our sensors detect massive dimensional distortions. She's creating some kind of pocket reality, a prototype for her perfect dimension, I suspect." "Can we counter it?" Shuna asked. "Not directly," Rimuru admitted. "Even my powers have limitations against pure void manipulation. But..." He hesitated. "What is it, brother?" "There might be a way to give Naruto the power he needs." Rimuru's expression grew serious. "The Veldanava protocol." Shuna gasped. "That's forbidden knowledge." "Even theoretically, it could destroy reality as we know it," Rimuru finished. "Yes. But if Kagaya Void succeeds, that happens anyway. The protocol would require someone who understands Veldanava's power to guide Naruto through the transcendence," Shuna noted. Rimuru nodded grimly. "Someone who has inherited fragments of Veldanava's essence. Someone like me." Shuna stared at her brother in dawning horror. "You would sacrifice yourself? To save multiple dimensions? In a heartbeat?" Rimuru smiled sadly. "That's what being a true demon lord means, doing what others can't or won't." "There has to be another way," Shuna insisted, tears forming in her eyes. Find one, Rimuru challenged gently. But prepare the protocol as a last resort. Time is running short. Naruto and Shion tracked the void energy to the ruins of the final valley, the symbolic location of endings and beginnings in Naruto's life. Why here? Naruto wondered as they surveyed the massive crater where his and Sasuke's final battle had reshaped the landscape. Places of emotional significance create dimensional weak points, Shion explained. Your feelings here left an imprint on reality itself. They cautiously approached the center of the valley where purple energy swirled in a lazy vortex. Unlike the violent rifts from before, this disturbance seemed almost peaceful, inviting. It's a trap, Shion stated unnecessarily. Obviously, Naruto agreed. But we need to spring it to find Kagaya Void. Wait. Shion placed a hand on his arm. Before we do this, there's something you should know. Naruto turned to her, noting the unusual intensity in her violet eyes. My visions haven't been completely honest, she confessed. I've been filtering them, showing you only the paths where you maintain your humanity. And the others? Naruto asked quietly. Shion took a deep breath. In many futures, you succeed in defeating Kagaya Void by fully transcending, becoming a cosmic force beyond gods. You save everyone. But Naruto Uzumaki ceases to exist as an individual. Naruto absorbed this in silence, his gaze returning to the swirling vortex. You should have told me sooner. I was afraid, she admitted. Not just of losing you to transcendence, but of pushing you toward it by revealing these paths. You've seen me with Shuna, Naruto realized. That's why you've been distant. In the futures where you remain human, yes, you and she. Shion couldn't finish the sentence. And in the others? Cosmic forces don't form relationships, she said simply. They simply are. Naruto stepped closer to the vortex. I never asked for any of this. I just wanted to protect my village, my friends. The most dangerous path to power is paved with good intentions, Shion reminded him. Kagaya herself began as someone who wanted peace. Before Naruto could respond, the vortex pulsed violently. Reality tore open, revealing Kagaya Void in her full glory, no longer a shadowy approximation but a radiant, terrible being of concentrated void energy shaped into Kagaya's form. The vessel and the prophet, she greeted them. Right on schedule. Where are the people from the hidden cloud? Naruto demanded. Safe. Preserved. The first citizens of my perfect world. Kagaya Void gestured, and a vision appeared beside her, thousands of people suspended in purple stasis, unaware of their predicament. They suffer no pain, no fear. Perfect conservation. You mean perfect control, Naruto accused. Release them. Kagaya Void laughed. So you can return them to a flawed, chaotic reality. Where wars rage, children starve, and suffering is constant. My perfect dimension will eliminate all of that. By eliminating choice, Shion countered. Without free will, they're not people anymore, just puppets in your cosmic dollhouse. An acceptable sacrifice for universal peace, Kagaya replied dismissively. But I didn't bring you here to debate philosophy. Her gaze fixed on Naruto. I brought you here to witness the next phase. With a dramatic gesture, she tore open dozens of massive rifts surrounding the valley. Through each, Naruto could see different worlds, different realities, some he recognized from his expanded awareness, others completely alien. The dimensional walls weaken, Kagaya announced. Soon, the great convergence begins. Naruto attacked without warning, channeling void energy into a concentrated blast. Kagaya deflected it easily, looking almost disappointed. Still using void power like a jutsu? How primitive. She countered with her own attack, not energy but a fundamental alteration of spacetime around Naruto. He found himself unable to move, reality itself holding him immobile. Shion rushed to his aid but was swatted aside by a casual gesture from Kaguya. I could destroy you both now, Kaguya noted conversationally. But that would be counterproductive. You see, Naruto Uzumaki, I need you. For what? Naruto grunted, struggling against his invisible bonds. To complete the convergence. Even with all my power, merging dimensions requires a specific catalyst, a being connected to multiple realities. Someone like you. Horror dawned on Naruto's face. You've been guiding this all along. The altar, the rifts, even my training with the dragons, all to prepare me as your catalyst. Very good, Kaguya praised mockingly. Though not entirely accurate. The dragons oppose me, certainly. But they too have their agenda. They seek a successor, a new cosmic guardian to replace those who have grown complacent. Naruto will never help you, Shion declared, struggling to her feet. Not willingly, perhaps, Kaguya conceded. But necessity has a way of changing minds. With another gesture, she opened a special rift showing Konoha under attack from void creatures far larger and more organized than before. Civilians fled in terror as buildings collapsed. Your precious village, Kaguya taunted. The first to fall in this new phase. Unless I help you, Naruto finished, rage building within him. You're destroying my home to manipulate me. I prefer to think of it as motivation, Kaguya corrected. But the choice is yours. Become the catalyst willingly, help shape the new reality, or watch everything you love disappear into the void, one piece at a time. Naruto closed his eyes, feeling the void energy churning inside him. The dragons had warned him about temptation, using power to force outcomes rather than accept reality. But what if reality itself was unacceptable? Don't listen to her, Shion pleaded. There's always another way. A new rift opened, showing Sasuke and Sakura defending the village, clearly overwhelmed by the onslaught. Another showed Shuna and Rimuru in Tempest, facing similar attacks. They fight valiantly, Kaguya observed. But futilely. Even the Demon Lord cannot stand against dimensional collapse. Naruto felt something shifting inside him, not corruption, but clarity. The Void Dragons had taught him to understand reality at a fundamental level, to see beyond physical forms to the pattern's underlying existence. And he suddenly saw the pattern here. Kaguya wasn't lying about the collapse, the dimensional barriers were failing. But she wasn't trying to save reality, she was accelerating its destruction to remake it in her image. There is another way, Naruto said quietly. But not yours or mine. Before Kaguya could respond, a new presence arrived, Sasuke, teleporting directly into the valley through a spatial rift of his own making. Took you long enough, Naruto called to his friend. Traffic was hell, Sasuke replied dryly, assessing the situation. I see you've met our shadow goddess properly. Uchiha, Kaguya acknowledged coldly. Always interfering. Sasuke didn't waste time with banter. He attacked immediately, using his Rinnegan to disrupt the spatial binding holding Naruto. Freed, Naruto launched his own assault. Together, they drove Kaguya back, forcing her to divide her attention. The Catalyst Protocol has already begun, Kaguya snarled as she defended herself. You cannot stop the convergence now. She was right. The rifts were expanding, reality fraying at their edges. Naruto could feel the dimensions beginning to bleed together, creating a chaotic jumble of conflicting physical laws. We need to stabilize the rifts. Shion called. I can't close them all at once, Naruto replied, dodging Kaguya's attack. There are too many. A new rift opened directly above them. Through it came Shuna and Rimuru, arriving from Tempest with perfect timing. We brought help, Shuna announced. Rimuru stepped forward, his usually casual demeanor replaced by serious purpose. Naruto, I have a solution. But the cost is high. Whatever it takes, Naruto replied without hesitation. The Veldanava Protocol, Rimuru explained quickly. A method to transcend dimensional limitations, to become what Veldanava was before creating our world. You'll lose yourself, Shuna warned, pain evident in her voice. Your identity, your connections, everything that makes you Naruto. Kaguya laughed triumphantly. Yes. The Demon Lord understands. Transcendence is the only answer. Join me, Naruto Uzumaki. Together we will create perfection. That's where you're wrong, Naruto replied calmly. Perfection isn't the goal. Connection is. He turned to Rimuru. This protocol, can it be modified? Shared? Rimuru's eyes widened in understanding. Theoretically, yes. But the power would be diluted. Better diluted than corrupted, Naruto decided. He looked at his gathered friends. I won't abandon my humanity. But I won't abandon these worlds either. We do this together or not at all. A touching sentiment, Kaguya mocked. But futile. The catalyst process has begun. Your body is already transforming. She was right. Naruto could feel it, void energy restructuring him at the cellular level, preparing him to channel forces beyond human comprehension. Then we work with it, Naruto insisted. Rimuru, how do we modify your protocol? As they conferred hurriedly, Sasuke and Shuna held Kaguya at bay. The Void Goddess grew increasingly desperate, her attacks wild and devastating. You cannot stop this, she shrieked. Cosmic law demands convergence. The dimensions must be unified. Not by you, Sasuke shot back, unleashing his perfect Susanoo. Rimuru finished explaining the modified protocol to Naruto and Shion. It will require a focal point, someone to anchor the transcendent energy. I'll do it, Shion volunteered immediately. No, came a surprising voice. Shuna stepped forward, momentarily withdrawing from battle. It should be me. My void affinity makes me the logical choice. It should be someone with connections to both worlds, Shion argued. Stop, Naruto interrupted. This isn't about logic or qualifications. It's about sacrifice. He looked between the two women with genuine affection. And I won't let either of you make it. Before anyone could object, Naruto channeled void energy in a new way, not attacking Kaguya, but surrounding his friends in protective bubbles of stable reality. What are you doing? Sasuke demanded. What I've always done, Naruto replied with a sad smile. Finding my own way. He turned to Rimuru. The protocol. Now. Understanding and respect dawned on the Demon Lord's face. Are you sure? There may be no coming back from this. I'm sure, Naruto confirmed. Better me than anyone else. Rimuru nodded solemnly and began the ritual, channeling his own connection to Veldanava's legacy into Naruto. The process was immediately visible, Naruto's body glowing with increasing intensity as cosmic awareness flooded his consciousness. No, both Shion and Shuna cried out, struggling against their protective barriers. Kaguya realized what was happening too late. Stop. The convergence must be controlled. Guided. You'll destroy everything. Not destroy, Naruto corrected, his voice already taking on an otherworldly quality. Transform. The void energy within him expanded exponentially, connecting to every rift simultaneously. Through each portal, observers from multiple worlds watched in awe as golden light mixed with purple void energy, creating something entirely new. Naruto rose into the air, his body becoming transparent as the transformation accelerated. For a moment, his human form seemed to fight against the change, clinging to its limitations. Naruto. Sasuke called out. Remember who you are. The words reached through the cosmic awareness flooding Naruto's consciousness. Images flashed through his mind, Ramen at Ichiraku's, training with Jiraiya, fighting alongside friends, connections and bonds that defined him. I remember, he managed, though his voice no longer seemed to come from his body. I will always remember. The transformation reached its peak. Light exploded outward, temporarily blinding everyone. When vision returned, Naruto hovered before them, still recognizably himself, but fundamentally changed. His body pulsed with contained void energy, and his eyes reflected countless dimensions. Kaguya stared in disbelief. Impossible. The transcendence should have erased your humanity. That was your mistake, Naruto replied, his voice carrying new depth and resonance. Thinking humanity is a limitation to overcome rather than the very thing worth preserving. With a gesture, he began stabilizing the rifts, not closing them entirely, but transforming them from chaotic tiers into structured gateways. What are you doing? Kaguya demanded, panic evident in her voice. Creating bridges instead of a prison, Naruto explained. Controlled connections between dimensions rather than forced unification. You can't. Kaguya attacked with all her remaining power, but Naruto simply absorbed it, adding her energy to his work. It's already done. With another gesture, he released his friends from their protective bubbles. The dimensional bridges are establishing themselves. Stable pathways between worlds that allow connection without collapse. Kaguya howled in rage, launching herself at Naruto in a final, desperate attack. This time, he didn't dodge or defend. Instead, he caught her, holding her struggling form with surprising gentleness. I understand your fear, he told her quietly. The void's emptiness, the terror of endless nothing. You sought to fill it by controlling everything. Release me, she demanded, but her voice held a note of desperation rather than command. I can help you, Naruto continued. Not by destroying you, but by healing you. Before she could protest further, he placed his hand on her forehead. Golden purple light flowed from him into her, purifying the corruption that had twisted her purpose. Kaguya Void screamed, not in pain but in revelation. Her shadowy form shimmered, the darkness burning away to reveal something brighter beneath. When the transformation finished, she still resembled Kaguya, but cleansed of madness and hatred. What have you done to me, she whispered, her voice now melodious rather than harsh. Reminded you of your original purpose, Naruto explained. Not to control reality, but to connect it. He released her, and she floated back, examining her transformed self with wonder. The emptiness, it's gone, she marveled. Because you're no longer trying to fill it with stolen realities, Naruto said. Now you can help maintain the bridges between dimensions instead of collapsing them. Kaguya, no longer void, but something new, bowed her head in acceptance. I will learn this new purpose. With the immediate threat neutralized, Naruto turned to his friends. Their expressions ranged from awe to concern to relief. Are you, still you? Sasuke asked carefully. Naruto grinned, and for a moment, he looked exactly like his old self. Mostly. Just with some cosmic awareness upgrades and a new appreciation for dimensional physics. But the transcendence, Rimuru began. Incomplete, Naruto finished for him. I stopped short of full cosmic ascension. Kept enough of my humanity to remember why I was doing this in the first place. Shuna approached cautiously, studying him with her perceptive eyes. You've changed, but not as much as the protocol should have demanded. How? I had anchors, Naruto explained, his gaze moving between Shuna, Shion, and Sasuke. Connections strong enough to keep me grounded even as my awareness expanded. Shion stepped forward. My visions, they're changing. The futures I see now are full of possibilities rather than fixed paths, Naruto completed. Because the dimensional bridges allow for greater variation without collapse. Rimuru looked impressed. You've essentially created a stable multiverse network. Even Veldanava never attempted that. Because he worked alone, Naruto said simply. I had help. He looked at the purified Kaguya. And will need more to maintain it. What happens now? Shuna asked. Naruto gazed upward at the stabilized dimensional bridges glittering in the sky like a network of stars. Now we build something new. Not perfect, not flawless, but connected. Together. As the group moved to leave the valley, Sasuke hung back with Naruto. You could have become a god, Sasuke noted quietly. Reshaped reality however you wanted. Would have been boring, Naruto replied with a ghost of his old mischievous smile. Besides, who would keep you in line if I was off being cosmic all the time? Sasuke's lips twitched in what might have been a suppressed smile. Always the dead last. Always your friend, Naruto corrected. Together, they followed the others toward a future none of them could have imagined, one where dimensions remained distinct but connected, where differences became strengths rather than divisions, where even gods could learn from humans. And above them, the bridges between worlds sparkled with promise. Chapter 3, Beyond the Gods. Naruto jolted awake, sweat beading on his forehead. The same dream again, cosmic awareness stretching his consciousness across 1,000 dimensions while his body fought to hold itself together. He sat up in bed, glancing at the clock. 3:17 a.m. Great, he muttered, running a hand through his messy hair. It had been 2 weeks since the final valley confrontation. 2 weeks of adjusting to whatever the hell he'd become. Not fully human anymore, but not quite God either. Something in between that didn't have a proper name. Purple energy flickered between his fingers as he absently formed small void constructs, tiny galaxies that spun in his palm before dissipating. The power came easier now, responding to his thoughts almost before he had them. A soft knock interrupted his brooding. Come in, he called, already knowing who it was. Shion slipped through the door, her pale nightgown ghostly in the darkness. The dream again? Yeah. He didn't bother asking how she knew. Her prophetic abilities had evolved since the dimensional bridges stabilized, becoming more precise, more immediate. She sat beside him on the bed, close enough for comfort but maintaining a respectful distance. Want to talk about it? Not much to say. Same cosmic vertigo, same feeling of being pulled apart and put back together. Naruto shrugged. The usual existential crisis at 3 in the morning. Shion's lips quirked. Most people just worry about their career choices or relationship problems. Yeah, well, most people didn't partially ascend beyond godhood while restructuring dimensional reality, he shot back with a wry smile. Their easy banter felt good, normal in a life that had become decidedly abnormal. Any word from Tempest? Naruto asked, changing the subject. Shuna's delegation arrives tomorrow, Shion confirmed, a slight tension entering her voice. The first official diplomatic mission through the dimensional bridges. Naruto nodded, pretending not to notice her discomfort. The complex dynamic between him, Shion, and Shuna remained unresolved, a triangle of attraction, respect, and shared purpose that none of them quite knew how to navigate. You should get some rest, Shion said, standing. Tomorrow's going to be chaotic. When isn't it? Naruto quipped, but he nodded gratefully. Thanks for checking on me. After she left, Naruto moved to the window of his apartment, gazing out at Konoha's nightscape. The village had changed, subtle alterations to accommodate the new reality. Dimensional stabilizers blended with traditional architecture. Visitors from other worlds occasionally walked the streets, causing double takes from civilians. And above it all, visible only to those with the right perception, the network of dimensional bridges glittered like cosmic highways. Naruto focused, extending his consciousness outward. He could feel them all, countless worlds connected by the bridges he'd created. Some familiar, others utterly alien. The sensation still disoriented him, like suddenly gaining thousands of new limbs. Among the connections, he sensed one particular world more strongly than others. Tempest. Specifically, a certain princess whose energy signature he'd grown to recognize instantly. Shuna was awake too, preparing for tomorrow's journey. Without fully intending to, Naruto established a direct connection, not quite telepathy, more like mutual awareness across dimensions. Can't sleep either, he projected, immediately regretting his impulsiveness. They'd discovered this ability by accident, and using it for casual midnight chat seemed inappropriate somehow. Shuna's surprise rippled through the connection, quickly followed by warm recognition. Naruto. I was just thinking about you. Good things, I hope. Her amusement flowed back to him. Wondering if the great void dragon sage snores. Naruto laughed out loud. Only after ramen, according to Shion. A brief awkward pause followed the mention of the priestess. Even across dimensions, some tensions remained palpable. How are the preparations going? Naruto asked, shifting to safer territory. Nearly complete. Lord Rimuru insists on sending enough gifts to fill a small warehouse. He claims it's diplomatic protocol, but I suspect he just wants to show off. Tell him we've got plenty of slime already, thanks, Naruto joked. Their conversation continued for several minutes, light, friendly, carefully avoiding deeper topics. Finally, Shuna sighed. I should finish my preparations. See you tomorrow, Naruto. Looking forward to it. The connection faded, leaving Naruto alone with his thoughts again. He returned to bed but knew sleep would remain elusive. Too much energy, cosmic and emotional, churned within him. Tomorrow would indeed be chaotic, but not for the reasons anyone expected. The diplomatic reception was in full swing when Naruto felt it, a ripple in the dimensional fabric, subtle but unmistakable. Something was interfering with the bridges. He maintained his smile, nodding politely as a Tempest official explained trade regulations, but his awareness stretched outward, scanning the network. There. A disruption near the outer bridges, far from the established connections. Something new trying to break through. Excuse me, Naruto said, placing his champagne flute on a passing tray. Hokage business. Very important, very boring. He slipped away from the reception hall, finding a quiet corridor where he could focus properly. Expanding his consciousness fully, he traced the disturbance to its source. Not Kaguya. She had embraced her new role maintaining the dimensional balance, working to repair the damage her corrupted form had caused. This was something else. Something older. Trouble. Naruto turned to find Sasuke leaning against the wall, arms crossed. His friend had an uncanny knack for appearing exactly when needed. Maybe. Something's trying to access the dimensional network from outside. Outside the universe. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. That's a new one. Outside the multiverse network, Naruto corrected. Beyond anything connected by the bridges. Sasuke pushed off the wall. Want backup? Always. But let's keep this quiet for now. No need to panic everyone during the big diplomatic shindig. They moved casually through the Hokage Tower, offering polite nods to passing dignitaries until they reached Naruto's office. Once inside, Naruto activated privacy seals and immediately dropped the political facade. It's bad, Sasuke. Whatever's trying to break through feels ancient. Like the void dragons but different. Hungrier. Can you block it? Temporarily. But it's persistent, testing different entry points. Naruto paced, energy crackling around him as his concern grew. I need to check it directly. You mean physically go there? To the edge of the multiverse? Sasuke looked skeptical. Even for you, that's extreme. Not physically, Naruto explained. Just my consciousness. My body stays here. And if whatever's out there decides to hitch a ride back with your consciousness? Naruto grinned. That's why you're here. If I start acting weird, weirder than usual, knock me out. Sasuke sighed but drew his sword, resting it across his lap as he sat down. Define weird. You're already half cosmic entity. If I start talking about consuming worlds or perfect harmony through forced unification, that's a pretty good sign. Noted. Don't take too long. I told Sakura I'd be back for the main reception. Naruto sat cross-legged on the floor, closed his eyes, and projected his consciousness outward. The sensation was like diving into an endless ocean, except every drop was a different universe. He navigated the currents of reality, following the disturbance to its source. The edges of the network appeared as a shimmering boundary, not a wall but a frontier where established connections gave way to uncharted potential. The disruption emanated from just beyond this boundary, pulsing with purpose. Naruto approached cautiously, extending his awareness like a probe. "Hello?" he projected, feeling slightly ridiculous. "Anyone there?" The response came not in words but in concepts, flooding his mind with alien impressions. Ancient. Hungry. Patient. Watching. Images formed, vast cosmic entities that made the void dragon seem young, beings that existed before the concept of dimensions, observing the multiverse network with cold curiosity. The bridges intrigue you, Naruto realized, translating their interest. You've never seen connections like these before. Affirmation. Then a request, access, entry, exploration. I can't just let you in, Naruto explained. These worlds are under my protection. Amusement rippled back. Protection. Temporary. Fleeting. All returns to void eventually. The entity, or entities, Naruto couldn't quite tell, pressed against the boundary, testing its strength. Not attacking, but not respecting the limitation either. Look, Naruto projected firmly, I get that you're curious, but barging in uninvited isn't how we do things. How about we establish communication first? Learn about each other before visiting. Surprise. Consideration. Creatures of matter suggesting terms to void entities. Unprecedented. More impressions flooded Naruto's mind. The cosmic beings had watched countless universes rise and fall, viewing them as momentary patterns in eternal chaos. The dimensional bridges Naruto had created represented something new, stability within change, connection preserving individuality. That's exactly it, Naruto confirmed. We're not trying to force unity or perfect stagnation. We're building relationships between different worlds, celebrating diversity while creating something greater through connection. The entities withdrew slightly, conferring among themselves in ways Naruto couldn't fully perceive. Finally, a decision reached him. We will observe longer. Your experiment interests us. When the bridges mature, we may speak again. Relief washed through Naruto. Thank you. I promise we'll keep the dimensional doors open for peaceful communication when the time is right. As he prepared to return to his body, a final impression struck him, not from the entities but from the void itself. A warning. Other things lurked beyond the multiverse network. Older. Hungrier. Less patient. And they had noticed the bridges too. Naruto gasped as his consciousness slammed back into his body. Sasuke was instantly alert, sword half drawn. What happened? You were gone almost an hour. An hour? Naruto shook his head to clear it. Felt like minutes. Time dilation. Classic sign of cosmic entity contact, came a new voice from the doorway. Shuna stood there, concern evident in her red eyes. I felt the disturbance from the reception. Excuse myself to check on you. Naruto stood, wobbly but recovering quickly. Ancient void entities. Watching from beyond our multiverse network. Curious but not immediately hostile. Not immediately hostile isn't particularly reassuring, Sasuke noted dryly. I bought us time, Naruto clarified. They've agreed to observe rather than interfere, at least until the dimensional bridges mature further. Shuna approached, her formal diplomatic robes rustling softly. Your energy signature is destabilized. The contact affected you more than you're admitting. Before Naruto could protest, she placed her hands on his temples, channeling her own void-attuned magic to help stabilize his fluctuating energy. The relief was immediate. Thanks, he murmured, acutely aware of her closeness. Guess I'm still getting used to cosmic conference calls. You should have waited for me, she chided gently. My training could have helped buffer the contact. It was kind of urgent, Naruto defended. Unknown entities knocking on reality's door and all that. Sasuke sheathed his sword, heading for the exit. Since you're not planning to consume worlds or establish perfect harmony, I'll head back to the reception. Sakura will have my head if I miss the formal dinner. After he left, Naruto and Shuna remained standing close together, her hands still resting lightly against his temples. Your energy feels different, she observed. The contact changed something in you. Naruto nodded slightly. I saw, so much. These entities, they've watched universes rise and fall like we watch seasons change. Makes our problems seem pretty small. And yet you stood your ground, Shuna said, a hint of pride in her voice. Negotiated with beings beyond comprehension. I just did what I always do, talked my way out of a fight, Naruto grinned, but it faded quickly. There's more, though. Something worse out there. Something that sees our dimensional bridges as an opportunity. Shuna lowered her hands but didn't step back. We should inform Lord Rimuru immediately. After the reception, Naruto decided. One crisis at a time. Tonight is about building trust between our worlds. Shuna nodded, then hesitated. Naruto, about the arrangement between our worlds, and between us. The office door opened again before she could continue. Shion entered, her formal priestess robes making her seem ethereal in the dimly lit room. There you are. People are asking for both of you. Her eyes moved between them, noting their proximity. Everything okay? Cosmic entity situation, Naruto explained casually, as if discussing the weather. All good for now. Shion's eyes widened. You made contact with something beyond the network. Naruto, that's incredibly dangerous. My visions have been warning about, she stopped abruptly. Warning about what? Naruto pressed. Shion looked uncomfortable. It's not clear yet. Just shadows moving beyond the light of established dimensions. I thought they were symbolic. They're not, Naruto confirmed grimly. But they're watching rather than acting, for now. An awkward silence fell as the three stood in the darkened office, each acutely aware of the complex dynamics between them. We should return to the reception, Shion finally said. Your absence has been noticed. Right. Political stuff. Super important. Naruto straightened his formal Hokage robes, which he still found stifling. Let's go be diplomatic. As they walked back toward the reception hall, Naruto found himself between the two women, physically manifesting the emotional triangle they'd been navigating. Each step felt weighted with unspoken questions. The reception hall glittered with lights and conversation. Representatives from multiple dimensions mingled, ninja from various villages, officials from Tempest, even a few delegates from more distant connected worlds. A testament to the bridges Naruto had created. Kakashi intercepted them at the entrance. There you are. The Mizukage was asking about the trade routes through the aquatic dimensions. I've been stalling with increasingly implausible stories about getting lost on the path of life. Sorry, Naruto grinned. Quick cosmic emergency. All handled. Kakashi's visible eye curved in what might have been amusement or concern. Sometimes I miss when our biggest problem was just Akatsuki trying to take over the world. Simpler times. Speaking of problems, Naruto said more quietly, we need to arrange a private council meeting. Tomorrow morning. Something's brewing beyond the network. Kakashi nodded, instantly serious. I'll handle it. Tonight, focus on not starting an interdimensional incident over dinner etiquette. The evening proceeded without further cosmic interruptions. Naruto played his role as Hokage and Dimensional Bridge Architect, moving from conversation to conversation with practiced ease. But his mind remained partly elsewhere, scanning the dimensional network periodically for any sign of disturbance. During dinner, he found himself seated between Shuna and a high-ranking official from the land of water. Across the table, Shion conversed with Rimuru, who had arrived fashionably late in his human form. "You seem distracted," Shuna murmured between courses. "Just monitoring the network," Naruto admitted quietly. "Can't help feeling like we're being watched." "We are," she replied simply. "The void entities you encountered will be observing everything now. It's their nature." "Great. Cosmic peeping toms." Naruto stabbed a piece of fish with unnecessary force. "Just what we needed." Shuna smiled slightly. "In my culture, the attention of greater beings isn't necessarily negative. It means our actions have significance beyond our own understanding." "That's one way to look at it," Naruto conceded. "Still feels creepy." Across the table, Shion looked up suddenly, meeting Naruto's eyes. A silent message passed between them. She'd sensed something in that moment, a shift in possible futures. Before Naruto could ask what she'd seen, Rimuru stood, raising his glass for a toast. The room fell silent. "To new connections," the demon lord began, his charismatic presence drawing all attention. "Not just between Tempest and Konoha, but between all worlds touched by the dimensional bridges. We stand at the beginning of an unprecedented era of cooperation and exchange." Glasses raised throughout the hall. Naruto lifted his own, maintaining his diplomatic smile while his senses screamed that something was wrong. "And to those who made these connections possible," Rimuru continued, nodding toward Naruto. "Particularly our host, who transcended limitations to build bridges rather than walls." As the toast concluded and conversation resumed, Naruto felt it, a definite shift in the dimensional fabric. Not at the edges this time, but closer. Within the network itself. He caught Shion's eye again, and her slight nod confirmed she'd sensed it too. Something had entered the network, bypassing the boundaries altogether. Something that shouldn't be there. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur of forced smiles and distracted responses. As soon as protocol allowed, Naruto gathered his inner circle, Sasuke, Sakura, Shikamaru, Shion, Shuna, and Rimuru, in a secure conference room. "We have a problem," he began without preamble. "Something's breached the dimensional network. Not from outside where I was monitoring, but from within." "How is that possible?" Shikamaru asked. "All access points are controlled through the bridges you established." "Unless it was already here," Rimuru suggested, his usual lightness replaced by serious consideration. "Dormant until now." Naruto paced the length of the table. "Whatever it is, it's moving between dimensions, avoiding direct detection. I can sense its passage but not its exact location. My visions are shifting rapidly," Shion added. "Possible futures appearing and disappearing too quickly to interpret clearly. But they all share one element, a void at their center. Not emptiness, but something deliberately hiding itself from prediction." "Can we close the bridges temporarily?" Sakura suggested. "Isolate each dimension until we find it." Naruto shook his head. "The bridges are too integrated now. Closing them suddenly could cause dimensional collapse in weaker worlds. We need to identify this thing first, understand what we're dealing with." "I'll coordinate with intelligence networks across connected dimensions," Shikamaru offered. "Any unusual events, unexplained phenomena, sudden personality changes in key figures, the usual signs of infiltration. Sasuke and I will establish a dimensional monitoring grid," Rimuru added. "Between his Rinnegan and my sensory abilities, we might detect this entity's movements. I'll work with the medical corps to prepare for any potential biological threats," Sakura said. "If this entity can cross dimensions, we need to be ready for unprecedented contagions." Naruto nodded gratefully. "Shion, keep tracking those shifting futures. Any detail could help." "Shuna." The princess met his gaze steadily. "I'll activate Tempest's void detection array. If this entity utilizes void energy in any form, we'll trace it. Good. We meet back here in 12 hours with whatever we've found. Naruto's expression turned grim. Until then, absolute secrecy. We can't risk panic across multiple dimensions. As the group dispersed, Naruto remained behind with Shion and Shuna, the three of them forming an unintentional triangle once more. There's something you're not telling them, Shion observed quietly. Naruto sighed. The entity, it feels familiar somehow. Like I've encountered it before. Could it be related to Kagaya Void? Shuna asked. A fragment that escaped purification. No, this is different. Older. Like it's been waiting a very long time for this opportunity. Naruto ran a hand through his hair in frustration. And I can't shake the feeling that it's connected to me somehow. To what I've become. The two women exchanged glances, a rare moment of mutual understanding transcending their complicated relationship. We'll figure it out together, Shuna assured him. No one faces cosmic entities alone, Shion added with a small smile. Not even the Void Dragon Sage. Naruto looked between them, profound gratitude mixing with something deeper. I don't deserve either of you, you know that. Probably not, Shuna agreed teasingly. But you're stuck with us anyway. For a moment, the weight of cosmic responsibility lifted, replaced by the simple comfort of connection. Then reality intruded again as Naruto's senses detected another dimensional shift, this one stronger, more deliberate. Less hiding, more hunting. It's accelerating its movements, he murmured. Whatever it's looking for, it's getting closer to finding it. Or whoever, Shion said quietly, her prophetic insight flaring. Naruto, I think it's looking for you. The dimensional monitoring grid activated at dawn, a network of sensors spanning connected worlds. Sasuke and Rimuru had worked through the night, combining ninja sealing techniques with tempest magic to create an unprecedented detection system. In the Hokage's office, Naruto studied the three-dimensional projection showing the entire dimensional network. Glowing lines represented the bridges he'd created, connecting diverse worlds in a complex web. Everything looked stable, harmonious. Except for the moving shadow, slipping between connections with deliberate purpose. There you are, Naruto murmured, watching its progress. What are you after? The door opened as Shikamaru entered with his preliminary report. We've got scattered incidents across 14 dimensions. Unexplained equipment failures, temporary amnesia in certain individuals, localized reality distortions. Nothing catastrophic, but a clear pattern of investigation. It's gathering information, Naruto realized. Learning about the network from the inside. And moving in a specific pattern. Shikamaru pointed to the projection, tracing the entity's path. Spiraling inward. Toward Konoha. Naruto nodded grimly. Toward me. Shikamaru studied him carefully. You know what this is, don't you? Not exactly. But I've got theories, none of them good. Naruto turned from the projection to face his advisor. How quickly can we evacuate civilians to Tempest if needed? Shikamaru's expression remained neutral, but concern flashed in his eyes. That bad? Potentially. I'd rather overreact than underestimate this thing. The dimensional bridge to Tempest can handle about 500 people per hour at current capacity, Shikamaru calculated. Full civilian evacuation would take nearly 2 days. Too slow, Naruto muttered. See if Rimuru can expand the connection temporarily. And set up the evacuation protocol as a precaution. Consider it done. Shikamaru paused at the door. Naruto, whatever this entity is, don't face it alone. Your hero complex was annoying enough when you were just a regular ninja. Naruto grinned. Me? A hero complex? No idea what you're talking about. After Shikamaru left, the smile dropped from Naruto's face. He returned his attention to the dimensional projection, watching the entity's inexorable approach. A gentle knock preceded Shion's entrance. The priestess looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes suggesting she hadn't slept. "You've been vision diving all night," Naruto observed with concern. "Had to. The futures keep shifting." She moved to stand beside him, studying the projection. "It's beautiful, in a way. The network you created. And now something's using it to hunt me down," Naruto added dryly. Cosmic irony at its finest. Shion placed a hand on his arm. "I saw something. Just fragments, but important. I'm listening. This entity, it's from before. Before the void dragons, before dimensions as we understand them." Shion's eyes took on a distant look. It was cast out, sealed away in the spaces between realities. Forgotten by everything except the void itself. "And I made bridges through that void," Naruto concluded. "Created highways right through its prison. Not just that. You." Shion hesitated. "Your transformation, becoming the void dragon sage, it resonated across all existence. Like a beacon. Great. So I rang the dinner bell for ancient sealed horrors." Naruto sighed dramatically. "Typical Tuesday. This isn't a joke, Naruto," Shion chided, but a small smile tugged at her lips. "In every future where you face this entity directly, I see consumption. It wants what you've become. It wants to eat me. Should I be flattered? It wants to absorb you. Your essence, your connection to the void, your ability to maintain the dimensional bridges." Shion's expression turned serious again. "In the futures where that happens, the multiverse network collapses completely. Catastrophic dimensional failure." Naruto absorbed this soberly. "And in the futures where that doesn't happen?" Shion looked away. "I haven't found one yet." The silence that followed felt heavy with implication. "Well," Naruto finally said, "guess I'll just have to make a new future then. Wouldn't be the first time." Before Shion could respond, the projection flashed red. The entity had accelerated suddenly, moving much faster toward Konoha. "It knows we've detected it," Naruto realized. "No more sneaking around." The office door burst open as Sasuke appeared, slightly out of breath. "Multiple dimensional breaches detected. It's not just one entity, it's fragmenting, sending pieces into different worlds simultaneously." Naruto's expression hardened. "It's creating distractions. Stretching our resources. Rimuru is coordinating responses in Tempest and other primary dimensions," Sasuke reported. "Shuna has activated their void containment protocols. And the evacuation? Underway, but there's resistance. People don't want to leave their homes without understanding why." Naruto nodded. "Can't blame them." He studied the projection once more, watching the fragments scatter while the main entity continued its approach. A decision crystallized. New plan. "We don't evacuate to Tempest." He turned to Sasuke and Shion with renewed determination. "We evacuate to the dimensional nexus I created during the Kaguya Void conflict. It's self-contained, defensible, and under my direct control." "The pocket dimension?" Sasuke looked skeptical. "It's stable enough for an entire village." "It will be once I reinforce it," Naruto assured him. "And there, I can face this entity without risking collateral damage to established dimensions." "You're creating a battlefield," Shion realized. "Drawing it away from populated worlds." "Exactly. This thing wants me. Fine. But on my terms, not in my village." Sasuke studied his friend carefully. "You're planning something you're not telling us." Naruto met his gaze evenly. "I'm improving the odds." "By doing what?" "By remembering what the dragons told me." Naruto's eyes glowed briefly with void energy. To surpass gods, one must understand why gods fail. The evacuation to the dimensional nexus proceeded with surprising efficiency. Once people understood they weren't being sent to another world but to a secure location directly under the Hokage's protection, resistance faded. Naruto stood at the main transportation point, personally reinforcing the dimensional bridge as civilians passed through. Each family received the same reassuring smile, the same confident nod that had always been his trademark. Looking very Hokage-like, Sakura commented, joining him during a brief lull. The dignified leader shepherding his people to safety. Dignified? Me? Naruto laughed. Must be the fancy robes. Sakura's expression softened. It's not the robes. You've grown into this role in ways none of us expected. Had to happen eventually. Even Kakashi-sensei managed to look professional sometimes. Rarely, Sakura corrected with a smile. Then, more seriously, Sasuke told me your plan. It's risky, Naruto. Even for you. Naruto shrugged. Calculated risk. Better than letting this thing hunt me across populated dimensions. And after? If you succeed? One crisis at a time, Sakura-chan, he replied, using the old familiar honorific that made her roll her eyes. First survive the ancient void horror, then worry about the cosmic politics. The evacuation continued throughout the day, the village gradually emptying as people relocated to the dimensional nexus. By sunset, only essential personnel remained, ninja coordinating defense, medical teams handling last-minute preparations, and Naruto's inner circle. They gathered for a final strategy session in the nearly empty Hokage Tower. The entity has recalled its fragments, Shikamaru reported, pointing to the projection where multiple signals converged once more. It's preparing for a direct approach. Estimated time of arrival? Naruto asked. 3 hours, based on current movement patterns. The dimensional nexus is secure, Shuna added. Lord Rimuru has established additional protective barriers, and Tempest forces are standing by to assist if needed. Kaguya has taken position at the dimensional crossroads, Sasuke noted. She'll try to intercept the entity before it reaches Konoha, slow it down if possible. Naruto absorbed these reports with a nod. Good. Everything's in place then. Except for one detail, Shion interjected. How exactly do you plan to defeat this entity? You still haven't explained that part. All eyes turned to Naruto expectantly. I don't plan to defeat it, he admitted. Not in the traditional sense. This thing is too ancient, too fundamental to simply destroy. Then what? Sasuke demanded. I'm going to offer it a deal. Disbelief rippled through the room. A deal? Shikamaru echoed incredulously. With an entity that wants to consume your essence and collapse the multiverse? Yep. Naruto's confident grin made a reappearance. That's kind of my specialty, remember? Taking enemies and turning them into reluctant allies. This isn't Gaara or Pain or even Sasuke, Sakura pointed out. This is something from beyond dimensions. All the more reason diplomacy might work where combat won't, Naruto countered. This entity has been isolated for eons. Maybe what it really wants isn't destruction but connection, on its own terms. Silence fell as the group considered his words. Finally, Shuna spoke. It could work, she admitted reluctantly. In Tempest's oldest records, there are accounts of void entities that were incorporated into the world structure rather than banished. They became foundation elements, stabilizing rather than threatening. Exactly. Naruto pointed at her enthusiastically. See? Princess gets it. And what are you offering this entity in exchange for not consuming you and collapsing reality? Sasuke asked dryly. Naruto's expression turned serious. A purpose. A role in the new cosmic order. Something better than eternal isolation or destructive consumption. That's, actually not your worst plan, Shikamaru conceded. High praise from you, Naruto grinned. I'm touched. The mood lightened slightly, but undercurrents of tension remained. This wasn't like their previous battles, not even like the confrontation with Kaguya Void. They were dealing with something truly alien, something that might not value the same things they did. As the meeting concluded and final preparations began, Naruto found a moment alone on the Hokage Tower's roof. The village below stood eerily empty, awaiting a confrontation that most of its citizens would never even know about. He sensed Shion and Shuna before he heard them, their distinctive energies now as familiar to him as his own. "Came to watch the sunset?" he asked without turning. "Came to watch you," Shion corrected, moving to stand on his right. "Making sure you're not having second thoughts. Or planning some noble self-sacrifice," Shuna added, taking position on his left. Naruto chuckled. "Am I that predictable?" "Completely," they answered in unison, then glanced at each other in surprise. "At least you two agree on something," Naruto observed wryly. The sunset painted Konoha in gold and amber, the empty streets taking on an almost dreamlike quality in the fading light. "It's beautiful," Shuna murmured. "Even knowing what's coming, there's peace in this moment." Naruto nodded. "That's worth fighting for. Not just the big cosmic stuff, but moments like this." "Is that why you rejected full transcendence?" Shion asked quietly. "To keep experiencing moments rather than eternities?" "Partly," Naruto admitted. "Eternities sound boring. But mostly because connections matter more than power." He glanced between them meaningfully. "Some connections especially." The unspoken triangle between them solidified into something almost tangible in that moment, mutual understanding, respect, and affection that transcended simple romance. "Whatever happens tonight," Naruto continued, "I want you both to know that A massive surge of energy interrupted him as the dimensional fabric above Konoha twisted violently. The entity had arrived early, tearing through the barriers Kaguya had established with frightening ease. "So much for my dramatic confession," Naruto muttered. "Always with the timing, these cosmic horrors." The distortion expanded, reality warping around a central point that seemed to both exist and not exist simultaneously, a paradox made manifest. From this impossible center emerged a form that defied conventional perception. Not humanoid, not draconic, not anything with reference in known biology. It shifted between states of matter, sometimes solid, sometimes gaseous, sometimes something else entirely. Its only constant feature was absorption, consuming light, sound, and reality itself around its fluctuating edges. "That's not what I expected," Naruto admitted. "What did you expect?" Shuna asked, her voice remarkably steady despite the existential horror hovering above their village. "I don't know. Tentacles. Glowing eyes. The usual eldritch aesthetic." The entity descended slowly, its movement creating ripples in the air like stones dropped in a still pond. As it approached, Naruto felt a pull on his void energy, not forceful consumption but curious examination. "It's scanning you," Shion whispered. "Learning." Naruto stepped forward, separating himself from the women. "I've got this. Stay back but ready." He advanced to the edge of the Hokage Tower's roof, directly facing the descending entity. With each step, he allowed more of his true nature to manifest, the void dragon sage emerging from behind his human limitations. Purple gold energy surrounded him, reality bending subtly in response to his presence. His consciousness expanded, reaching toward the entity in greeting rather than aggression. "I am Naruto Uzumaki," he projected, using concepts rather than words. "Architect of the dimensional bridges. I know why you've come." The entity paused, seeming to consider this approach. Its response came not in language but in pure conceptual transfer, recognition. Evaluation. Purpose. "You were trapped between dimensions," Naruto continued. "Forgotten. The bridges I created allowed you to return. Freedom. Hunger. Completion." The concepts carried layers of meaning, eons of isolation, desperate need for connection, desire to be whole again. "You don't need to consume me to find completion," Naruto offered. "There's another way." Skepticism. Experience. Necessity. Images flooded Naruto's mind, countless cycles of cosmic evolution, entities rising and falling, always through consumption and replacement. A natural order the entity had always known. That's the old way, Naruto countered. I'm offering something new. Partnership instead of consumption. Connection instead of replacement. The entity descended further, now hovering directly before Naruto. Its form stabilized slightly, adopting a vaguely humanoid shape as if attempting communication on more relatable terms. Explain. Demonstrate. Prove. Naruto extended his hand, offering direct connection, a dangerous move that could allow the entity access to his essence, but necessary to show his sincerity. Let me show you what I've built. What we could build together. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then a tendril of the entity's substance extended, making contact with Naruto's outstretched hand. The connection was immediate and overwhelming. Naruto's consciousness expanded exponentially as the entity's ancient awareness merged partially with his own. Eons of existence flowed through him, the entity's origins as a fundamental force of reality, its gradual development of consciousness, its eventual imprisonment between dimensions by fearful primordial beings. In return, Naruto shared his own experiences, his human life, his growth, his connections, and finally his creation of the dimensional bridges. He showed the entity not just what he had built but why, the value of preserving individual worlds while connecting them through mutual understanding. The exchange lasted seconds in physical reality but encompassed lifetimes of shared perspective. When it ended, both Naruto and the entity had changed. You understand now, Naruto said aloud, his voice carrying strange harmonics. What I'm offering. The entity's form shifted again, becoming more defined, more intentional in its presentation. When it responded, the concepts carried clearer structure, intriguing. Unprecedented. Possible. More than possible, Naruto pressed. Necessary. The old cycle of consumption and replacement leads nowhere. Connection and cooperation create something greater than either of us alone. Function. Role. Purpose. You would be the foundation, Naruto explained, the plan forming as he spoke. The underlying support for the dimensional bridges. Not imprisoned again, but integrated, a fundamental part of the cosmic structure with awareness and agency. The entity considered this proposal, its form fluctuating as it processed the implications. Finally, it extended once more toward Naruto, agreement. Conditions. Partnership. Relief washed through Naruto, though he maintained his focused expression. Name your conditions. Freedom. Access. Evolution. The concepts expanded in Naruto's mind. The entity wanted guaranteed mobility between dimensions, direct connection to the void energies flowing through the bridges, and the right to continue its own development without interference. Reasonable requests, Naruto acknowledged. With one limitation, no consumption of sentient beings or established realities without consent. The entity seemed almost amused. Adaptation. Preference. Acceptance. Then we have an agreement. Naruto extended both hands now. Let's reshape the foundations together. Behind him, Shion gasped as her prophetic sight suddenly cleared, new futures crystallizing, paths appearing where before there had been only void. The entity enveloped Naruto completely, their energies intermingling in a display that lit up Konoha like midday. The dimensional fabric above them rippled, adjusted, and then stabilized into something stronger, more resilient than before. When the light faded, Naruto stood alone on the roof, but fundamentally changed. The void energy within him had both diminished and transformed, now flowing through him like a conduit rather than residing within him as a reservoir. Naruto. Shuna approached cautiously. Are you, yourself? He turned, a familiar grin spreading across his face despite the otherworldly glow in his eyes. Mostly. Just with some new cosmic roommates. Very quiet, keeps to themselves, only wants to restructure fundamental reality occasionally. Shion studied him with her prophetic sight. The entity is, within you? Not exactly. More like we're connected now. It forms part of the dimensional network's foundation, and I serve as its interface with our worlds. Naruto stretched, looking surprisingly relaxed for someone who had just merged with an ancient cosmic horror. Much better than being consumed, trust me. You negotiated with an eldritch abomination, Shuna said slowly, and got it to accept a job as cosmic infrastructure. When you put it that way, it sounds kind of ridiculous, Naruto admitted. It sounds exactly like you, Shion corrected, a smile breaking through her concern. Turning enemies into reluctant allies through sheer stubborn optimism. Naruto laughed, the sound carrying subtle harmonics that hadn't been there before. Some things never change, I guess. Even when everything else does. The return of Konoha's citizens from the dimensional nexus took place over several days, carefully managed to prevent disruption to the newly strengthened bridges. Most people noticed nothing different about their village or their Hokage, though some more sensitive individuals commented that the air felt somehow richer, more vibrant. A week after the confrontation, the Interdimensional Council convened for its first official meeting. Representatives from connected worlds gathered in a specially constructed chamber that existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions, a physical manifestation of the bridges Naruto had created. Rimuru led the Tempest delegation, with Shuna as his chief diplomat. Gaara represented the unified ninja villages, while leaders from a dozen other dimensions filled the remaining seats. At the center of the circular chamber stood Naruto, now officially recognized as the Dimensional Nexus Guardian. The strengthened bridges are holding perfectly, he reported. Travel between connected worlds is safer and more efficient than ever. We've already seen unprecedented cooperation in trade, knowledge exchange, and cultural programs. And the entity? Gaara inquired, ever practical. No further concerns. It's fully integrated into the network's foundation, Naruto assured him. More partner than prisoner. Actually seems to enjoy its new purpose. Stabilizing reality beats eternal isolation, Rimuru noted. Not a difficult choice when presented properly. The council proceeded to discuss regulatory frameworks for interdimensional travel, protocols for bringing new worlds into the network, and safeguards against potential threats. Through it all, Naruto found himself constantly aware of the expanded reality around him, the countless dimensions connected through his consciousness, the steady flow of void energy maintaining those connections. And deeper still, the ancient entity, now named Foundation by mutual agreement, observing with curious satisfaction as its long isolation transformed into unprecedented connection. When the meeting concluded, Naruto lingered in the chamber, enjoying a rare moment of solitude. Or what passed for solitude when you shared consciousness with a cosmic entity and could sense trillions of beings across countless dimensions. Heavy thoughts, came Shion's voice as she returned to the chamber. Just appreciating the quiet, Naruto replied. Relatively speaking. Shuna entered from another doorway, completing their familiar triangle. The Tempest delegation is impressed. They didn't expect such rapid progress in dimensional stabilization. Thank Foundation for that, Naruto grinned. Turns out ancient cosmic entities are very efficient when given clear objectives and cable TV. You gave it television? Shion asked incredulously. Metaphorically speaking. It's fascinated by human entertainment, says it explains a lot about our species' bizarre development. The three shared a laugh, the sound echoing pleasantly in the dimensional chamber. As the moment stretched comfortably between them, Naruto finally addressed the unspoken topic they'd been avoiding. So, about us, he began awkwardly. This triangle we've been dancing around. Both women tensed slightly, exchanging quick glances. Subtle as ever, Shuna commented dryly. Hey, I faced down an ancient void horror. Relationship conversations should be easier, right? Naruto rubbed the back of his neck nervously. Look, I care about both of you. Deeply. In ways I'm still figuring out. We know, Shion said softly. And we both care about you. But it's complicated, Shuna added. We have responsibilities, positions in different worlds. Naruto nodded. I know. I'm not asking for immediate answers or commitments. Just, acknowledgement that whatever this is between us, it matters. It's worth exploring, even across dimensional boundaries. The women exchanged another look, this one longer, more meaningful. Some silent communication passed between them, an understanding reached without words. We've discussed this, Shuna admitted. While you were busy with Foundation and the council preparations. You have. Naruto looked surprised. That's unexpected. We agreed that forcing you to choose between us would be both unfair and unnecessary, Shion explained. Especially given your new role connecting dimensions. In my world, Shuna continued, relationships sometimes transcend conventional boundaries. What matters is honesty, respect, and mutual understanding. Are you suggesting? Naruto trailed off, processing the implication. We're suggesting patience, Shion clarified. Time to explore possibilities without pressure or jealousy. To see if something unprecedented might work for our unprecedented situation. Naruto looked between them, genuine emotion shining through his cosmic-enhanced eyes. I don't deserve either of you. We know, they replied in unison, then smiled at each other, no longer rivals but potential allies in the most personal of diplomatic missions. The conversation might have continued, but reality itself shifted subtly around them. Foundation was alerting Naruto to something requiring his attention. Duty calls. Shuna guessed, recognizing the fluctuation in his energy. Yeah. Dimensional hiccup in one of the newer connections. Nothing serious, but needs monitoring. Naruto stood reluctantly. Rain check on this conversation. We have time, Shion assured him. One advantage of connecting dimensions, distance means less than it used to. With a grateful smile, Naruto activated his Void Dragon Sage powers, his form shifting partially out of conventional reality. Before fully departing, he left them with a characteristic grin. Being cosmic isn't so bad when you've got people keeping you human. In a flash of purple gold light, he transported directly into the dimensional stream, traveling between worlds with the ease of stepping through an open door. Shion and Shuna remained in the chamber, silent for a moment as they absorbed the implications of their new arrangement. This won't be easy, Shuna noted finally. Nothing worthwhile ever is, Shion replied. Especially where he's concerned. They shared a knowing smile and departed together, representatives of different worlds, bound by common purpose and shared affection for the man who had built bridges between their realities. Months passed as the new cosmic order established itself. The dimensional network expanded cautiously, bringing new worlds into connection under careful protocols. Foundation thrived in its new role, its ancient awareness providing stability and insight to the growing interdimensional community. And Naruto balanced his cosmic responsibilities with distinctly human connections, still eating ramen with friends, still arguing with Sasuke, still navigating the complex relationship developing between himself, Shion, and Shuna. It wasn't perfect. Nothing involving humans, or former humans turned cosmic entities, ever could be. But it was alive, evolving, filled with possibility rather than rigid perfection. On a quiet evening, Naruto stood atop the Hokage monument, gazing not just at his village but at the dimensional bridges visible to his enhanced perception. Countless worlds connected through understanding rather than force, diverse rather than uniform, united but independent. Not bad for a former dead last, came Sasuke's voice as his friend joined him on the cliff top. Could have done it without the cosmic horror merge, Naruto admitted. That part was improvised. Your entire life is improvised, Sasuke noted dryly. Somehow it works out anyway. They stood in companionable silence, watching the stars emerge above Konoha, stars that now held new meaning for Naruto, each potentially hosting worlds that might someday join the growing network. Any regrets? Sasuke asked finally. About not taking the full transcendence route. Becoming a true god beyond Veldanava. Naruto considered the question seriously. Nah. Gods miss out on all the good stuff. Ramen. Bad jokes. Figuring things out as you go along. Complicated love triangles with interdimensional women. Sasuke added with the barest hint of a smirk. Especially those, Naruto grinned. Besides, what's the point of all this cosmic power if not to protect the messy, imperfect, amazing things that make life worth living? Below them, Konoha glowed with evening lights as people went about their lives, largely unaware of the cosmic drama that had unfolded in their village. Children played in parks where dimensional barriers had nearly collapsed. Merchants haggled over prices of exotic goods from other worlds. Life continued, enriched rather than disrupted by the new connections. You did good, Naruto, Sasuke admitted quietly. Surpassing gods by remembering to be human. Not many could have walked that line. I had help, Naruto replied simply. Still do. As if summoned by his thoughts, a dimensional rift opened nearby, a controlled, elegant doorway rather than a chaotic tear. Shion and Shuna stepped through together, having spent the day coordinating cultural exchange programs between their worlds. Council meeting tomorrow, Shuna reminded them. Rimuru wants to discuss the aquatic dimension proposal before the formal vote. And the Land of Iron has submitted their interdimensional neutrality declaration for review, Shion added. Naruto groaned dramatically. Can't we just enjoy the sunset for 5 minutes before diving back into cosmic politics? The women exchanged amused glances. 5 minutes, Shuna agreed, moving to stand beside him. Then back to work, Dimensional Nexus Guardian, Shion added, taking position on his other side. The four of them stood together as twilight deepened over Konoha, ninja and sage, priestess and princess, human and cosmic, all connected by bonds stronger than any dimensional barrier. Deep within Naruto's consciousness, Foundation observed with alien curiosity this strange, warm phenomenon humans called friendship. After eons of isolation, it was beginning to understand why Naruto had fought so hard to preserve these connections. By the way, Naruto said casually, Foundation wants to know if we can add a dimension full of cats to the network. Apparently, it's developed a fondness for felines after browsing the internet. The laughter that followed rose into the night sky, traveling along dimensional frequencies, rippling across the bridges between worlds, proof that even in a multiverse of infinite possibilities, some connections transcend all boundaries. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.